Hey guys, Josh Harris here. Let us know if you got audio. Just put a 2 in the chat. Alrighty. Welcome guys to this additional training here. I've got, again with me tonight, Tommy Leantonio. How you doing, Tommy?
I'm good, Josh. How's it going?
Good, man. So I'm going to let you take over and take us away on our value proposition training.
Sure. All right. So if you were on last night's call, you heard a lot about our technology, and I thought tonight we would get right down to the value, right? What is the value? So the way I teach sales to salespeople is I don't present to somebody, okay, a custom presentation until I know what the motivation is, right? So for me, it's the way we generate a lead. We do a discovery call. We ask a series of questions. And in most businesses, it's pretty simple. The motivation is they want to be more profitable, right? And if you were on last night's training, there are 5 forces that you compete for profits against, okay? Just a quick recap: rival companies, substitutes, powerful buyers, powerful suppliers, and threats of entry. So we're talking to you about your agency. So I'm going to take the approach tonight as to how you would sell this to a company, okay? So we're going to assume, we're going to assume that their motivation, okay, is that they want to be more profitable, right? They want to generate leads that turn into sales and sales that turn into profits, right? So they want profitable sales leads, all right? That's basically it. And the reason why we talk about motivation being so important is because, and again, we do not present to somebody without knowing what that motivation is. But what I want to teach you tonight is how do you tie the motivation to one of the 5 obstacles, right? The 5 forces that they compete against. Because I'll give an example. I've spoken to plenty of clients that have single channel, right? They only get traffic from Facebook. So their biggest problem is they have a powerful supplier issue, right? When I was selling in the automotive industry, they have a word called conquest. That's what they call someone else's customers, right? So if I'm a Ford dealership and I steal a Honda client, that's a conquest sale. Not just a sale, but it's a conquest sale, right? They don't want to lose their base. They don't want brand migration. They don't want someone leaving Ford and buying a Honda. So their number one motivation is to beat their rivals, right? So it's important that you understand what specific force is, quite frankly, kicking their ass the most, okay? So I don't care what kind of company we're talking to, whether it's a law firm, a dental practice, a recruitment company, it doesn't matter. They are winning profits and they are losing profits. And when they're losing profits, they're losing to one of the 5 forces. That's MBA 101, okay? You get your business, you get your master's in business, that's the first thing they're going to teach you. That's Michael Porter, right? The Porter's the 5 forces of competition for profit. So the way in which I want you to present each feature is in the order in which I have it on the screen, okay? You always should talk about your features in what it is, what it does, and how it does it, okay? But you should talk about the advantage. How is this an advantage over what you currently do, or in some cases what they currently could do but maybe aren't doing, all right? So how is this an advantage over what they're currently doing and the result of that advantage, okay? And the benefit that, you know, what you will gain from that advantage. Now, here's the thing about features. Features are related to the product, right? So all the features I'm going to talk about tonight we have, but the benefit is unique to the prospect, which is why you have to ask those questions before you do a custom presentation. So if you were working for me, what I would teach you to do is really simple. When I know exactly what your motivation is, for example, when I pitched automotive, I knew it was beating rivals. So as I go through these 10 value propositions, I would present to them the value proposition that shows the most against a rival, who produces the most against the rival, gives the greatest advantage and benefit. Okay? And then the second most advantageous, then the third most, and the fourth most. And I would always hold one back in reserve for an objection. Okay? So all of these value propositions you could present, but you'd be making a mistake. Right? You want to know what they are. They apply differently to everybody. So the motivation is the only element of a conversion where you cannot change it, right? It's intrinsic to the customer, right? To the potential prospect. It's their motivation, okay? Your job is to tap into that natural motivation, all right? So tonight's training is about how you're going to close companies, all right? So everybody's got a different motivation. So as I go through these, I'm going to try and revert it back to this is how you beat a rival. This is how you beat a powerful supplier. This is how you beat a powerful buyer. Okay? So again, just a quick recap. Rivals, powerful buyers, powerful suppliers, substitutes. Those are the four most common. And every business is losing profits to them. Now, some cases they're losing more to a rival. In some cases they're losing more to Facebook and Google suppliers. Okay? So we're going to follow this pattern. So the first thing I want to talk about is what value proposition is. It's really simple. It answers the question, if I'm your ideal prospect, why should I buy from you rather than a competitor? Right? Why should I buy from you? And you give them the value proposition. It answers a question, right? It differentiates how your offer is different than a competitor. Remember what we talked about last night? You don't want to be different like a white car with black polka dots, right? You want to be different in that it's not only exclusive, but it's something they want, right? Because exclusive without appeal lacks attraction. Whereas the flip of that, let's say it's extremely appealing, but you have no exclusivity, right, where they can get it from thousands of other people, okay, the value dissipates. It's worth less, right? If you can get what we're offering tonight from every single guy in the world, well, then it has no real value at all. That's why we're going to limit it in the verticals so that you have an only factor, right? So you have a differentiator. Now, it's your job to explain it so they understand it, okay, and so they can believe you. And I promised you last night that I'm going to show you how to step-by-step take somebody from complete stranger to close. It's not complicated at all, okay? So the first value proposition, all right, answers the question, why should I buy from you rather than a competitor? So let me tell you what people-based marketing is. People-based marketing is the ability to recognize and run ads to prospects or customers, right, past customers, on all of their devices, on any marketing platform, online or offline, right? The ability to recognize that customer or prospect by name. All right, that's what it is. So what it does is it allows me to target people, not demographics, right? We target Josh. Now, why are we targeting Josh is the next value proposition. In-market leads, in-funnel leads, okay? But for right now, what it does is it allows me to target somebody on a one-to-one basis, just like when you're talking to somebody face-to-face or talking to somebody on the phone, okay? It allows me to target somebody in today's world on any device, okay? So last night I explained how we do that. We use retargeting pixels. We drop them during a transaction. Why during a transaction? It guarantees that we get a human being and not a bot. Why a transaction? Because during the transaction, the customer, the prospect, is going to pass me back an identifier, 99.9% of the time, it's an email address in the form of a cryptographic hash, right? A way to protect their identity. They pass me the email, and the email connects to the cookie. The cookie sits on their browser, and as they navigate the internet, as we collect data, the data we collect, the 50 billion pieces of data we collect, okay, a day, all come attached to an identifier, right? That's how we do it. Now, why is it an advantage versus using third-party data? Well, third-party data means anonymous, right? You've all probably used Facebook's data or Google's data, or maybe you've been to SiteScout, or maybe you've been to MediaMath, right? You've used third-party data. Do you know who they are? No. Do you know what goes into that targeting? No. Do you know if you're targeting 5,000 people or 50,000 people? You don't know. All right? When you target third-party data at Facebook and you get it dialed in, can you take that same targeting data over to Google and do it? No. Can you use that same targeting data on direct mail? No. So the benefit, right, the advantage over what you're currently doing is that you now have the ability to target somebody on multiple devices. You have the ability to target somebody on multiple marketing platforms, any marketing platform. You have the ability of targeting somebody online or offline, and you can do it all simultaneously if you so desire. Now, the benefit of that, what do you gain from that advantage? Well, think about a rival, right? If you're a dentist and you have the ability to target past customers when they're out shopping for a new dentist, right? Or in the case of an auto dealership, when their past customers are in the market for a new car. Now, again, not every vertical that applies to, but maybe you're Google-centric. 100% of your leads come from Google keywords, right? PPC. Well, if you're able to target somebody on any of their devices, now you can target them on mobile, or you can target them on other ad platforms, right? Because you're targeting a person. You're not what I call platform-centric, right? You're platform agnostic. You don't care where they go because you've changed your marketing from targeting at Facebook and going to Facebook and saying, guys, help me with my targeting. Instead, you're in control of your targeting, people-based targeting, the ability to target a human being. Now, the basics of that, well, if you're targeting a buyer, right, if you're targeting somebody who's in market, somebody who's interested, you're going to get a much better response, right? If you're targeting somebody who is an online guy and not an offline guy, or vice versa, you now have the flexibility of speaking to them in the way in which they enjoy being spoken to. Some people like getting direct mail. Some people like getting video ads. Some people like getting, keyword ads. Some people like getting Facebook ads. Some prospects respond better at different platforms. So you have total flexibility when you do people-based. Okay, it's no longer anonymous, but I'm going to tell you the biggest advantage. The single biggest advantage is that now you can measure your results against your marketing. Right? One of the biggest problems we have is ad spend attribution, and we're going to cover that tonight. Okay? Now, I've taken the people-based and I've broken it down, okay? Because there's a lot of things that I'm going to cover tonight that I just covered here quickly, but I'm going to get into more detail on each one of them, okay? It's not about, oh, we've got 10 value propositions, okay? It's not about permanent or portable or 100%. There's something that you have to understand about a value proposition, okay? When you show somebody why they should choose you over a competitor, right? It's that fulcrum, right? That seesaw, that measuring, the value outweighing the cost, okay? When they look at it, they have a much different perception of what value is, okay? And your job is to educate them. Okay? And for me, you know the reality of what your value can do. One of the reasons why I want you to be in a specific vertical is because when you can get one, just one, inside that vertical, now you're going to go explain how you did it. And how you did it is your value proposition. You're going to describe the inside reality of the value so that their perception isn't cost outweighing value, it's value outweighing cost, right? Their perception of value is important, all right? And if you have to jump from vertical to vertical, that gets complicated, all right? When I talk to people about what we do, I gave you the layout of how we do it. We find out what their motivation is, and then we give them the value proposition that delivers that the most, the second most, the third most, the fourth most, all right? We simplify it, we layer it, and we sequence it, all right? So we even have a mental sequence, a thought sequence that leads up to the presentation, how we advertise to them, how we bring them through our funnel, right? How we work them in our CRM. There's a process that we go through, and we call this the sequence of conclusions, right? What conclusions do they have to come to for them to be able to buy from us? So the first thing we always do when we get an inquiry on a lead is we talk about how their strategy isn't winning 100% of the marketplace. So the second question is, who are you losing the other percentage to? Let's say you're winning 5% of the market. Who are you losing the 95% to? You're losing it to the 5 forces. So we take people through step by step. All right? So the next 9 slides are just value propositions. I have them in varying orders. There's no real sequence to this because everybody is different. Okay? Everybody has a different motivation. Some people feel like they're getting squeezed by their prospects and they have to compete on price. So they're losing profits to powerful buyers. Some people are squeezed by their supplier like Google and Facebook. They got to pay $12 a click. They're losing profits to a powerful supplier. Okay? So the first one I want to talk about is the most obvious one. An in-market lead is nothing more than someone who is actively pursuing a purchase of what you sell. Now, how do we know when someone is in market? Okay? We know someone's in market because we collect data, behavioral data, URL navigation, keyword search, campaign response, social media, right? All of that mobile behavior, content consumption, all that behavior. And we look at the behavior of prior buyers, right? Prior conversions. And we find a pattern, right? That's what we do. That's what InMarket does. It allows us to identify those people by behavior that are actively pursuing a purchase of what we sell. Okay? So how is this an advantage of what you're currently doing? It's the difference between advertising to the haystack or just advertising to the needle, right? We start out with the needles. We don't waste one single dollar of ads, one single dollar of ad spend on someone that doesn't deserve. Now, why only advertise to people that are actively pursuing a purchase of what you sell? Because 100% of all commerce, all sales come from in-market leads. Okay? That's it. If you ask people a simple question inside the verticals we're going to allow you to be in, and that simple question is, what percentage of your sales start online in the form of searches, right? Researching of some kind, doing comparisons, reading reviews, right? Visiting websites that are pertinent to the topic, right? Solving the problem that they have, okay? Well, think about it. There's only 2 things people are interested in. They have a problem that they no longer want, or there's a result they want but do not have. Well, guess what? Let's say that you deliver a solution to a problem. Why would you advertise to someone who doesn't even know they have a problem? Or target someone who doesn't have the problem at all? Wouldn't you only want to advertise to people who have toothaches if you're a dentist? You wouldn't want to target people with teeth, right? You could, but that wouldn't be a good use of their ad spend. See, so InMarket gives you the advantage in that you're only targeting people who have the greatest probability of profit, the quickest path to profit, the best use of their ad spend for profit. And quite frankly, there's no larger opportunity today. Now, you might have 100,000 people in your marketplace, but 3,000 are in the market for what you sell, okay? The largest opportunity today is not the 100,000, it's the 3,000, all right? So in-market leads are the largest opportunity for profits today. So when you're talking to a potential prospect, you're going to ask them a very simple question, and that's this. Can you tell me the names of the people that are actively in market, actively pursuing a purchase of what you sell? Because I can. Not only can I tell you how many, but I can tell you their name. And not only can I tell you their name, but I possess the ability to advertise to them on any single ad channel I want, which means that we're never going to be at the mercy of a powerful ad channel like Facebook or Google. Now, Dr. Johnson, I'm not telling you we're not going to advertise on Facebook. I'm not going to tell you we're not going to advertise on Google, but I want you to know if any of those powerful suppliers change their terms, which will increase the cost for us, therefore reducing your profit, you're not going to be held hostage anymore. I'm going to be able to market to these people wherever they go, whatever device they're on, whether that's online or offline, okay? And there isn't a company, not a single company, that can offer you the ability of in-market leads, the ability to tell you by name who is actively pursuing a purchase of what you sell. Now, I'm from New York, if you can't tell with my accent. So I like being direct. I tell businesses of all sizes, if you could only have one power, just one power, that could increase your profits, right? You'd want to make more sales. Well, I can't give you those sales. I wish I was here selling you a sale. But what I can do is I can give you the name of the person who has the greatest probability of buying from you, the quickest path to buying from you, the best use of your ad spend, and your greatest opportunity today. That I can do. And nobody else that I compete against can offer you that, which means that you are going to have an opportunity against your competitors. Now, let me call it timeout, okay? So how do we talk about that is the next part, right? How do we explain to a lawyer how they can beat other attorneys? Well, it's really simple. If I can tell you who's in market, that means that your competitor doesn't know, right? So if I can tell you who's in market, I can also tell you who's in market before your competitor, which means you can start developing a relationship with them before your competitor, okay? So I want you to think, instead of an ad campaign, I don't want you to think of them as campaigns, all right? Because it's a bad thought process. It's a negative thought process, right? If we're customer-centric, think of them as conversations, okay? Conversations. You want to have conversations, not campaigns, right? You have to develop a relationship before you sell. Well, you can do that if you know who's in market first, okay? You develop a relationship the same way you do face-to-face. You start a conversation. When you know first, you're able to start that conversation before your competitor. So not only can I tell you who's in market by name, Dr. Johnson, okay, I can have you start the conversation before anybody you compete against. All of your rivals are going to come after you've already started a conversation and started to develop a relationship. You're always going to be first. Okay? So let's talk about the second. In-funnel leads. What's an in-funnel lead? Okay? Think of it like this. We used to call it site visitor match. All right? All we're talking about is we put a pixel on your website where you're driving your traffic to. Okay? And what a pixel does is it places a cookie. And it places a cookie unless one is already there. So if one of the 125 million people we track happen to visit a website, right, and we have our pixel on that smart pixel on their website, on your website, excuse me, then you're going to be able to know who that visitor is. So Dr. Johnson, right, John, whoever it is you're pitching, not only can I tell you who's in market actively pursuing a purchase of what you sell, but I can tell you who's coming to your website. And I can tell you their name, their address, their phone number, and their email. And the advantages of all of that are significant. Because all of your competitors are going to advertise to the haystack. You're only advertising to the needles. Okay? But not all needles buy. I'm going to be able to identify those needles that are not only actively pursuing a purchase of what you sell, but are actually considering and preparing to buy from you. Now, why is that an advantage? Well, you might do retargeting right now. But let me ask you something. If you retarget somebody and you drive that cookie, you drive that piece of traffic from Google, you can only retarget them at Facebook. Excuse me, at Google. If you retarget them from Facebook, if you drive them from Facebook, you can only retarget them back to Facebook, right? With us, when you use our in-market leads and you drive it to your website, now you possess ownership. It's not a cookie. You're literally going to get a report every week of all of the new people that are in market and those that are in funnel. Okay? All of those that are in market and are in funnel. And what that's going to allow you to do is to be in control. You're not on the clock. Cookies expire. You're not limited. You're not dictated to by a powerful supplier. Right? Facebook says if you drive traffic from us, you can only retarget them back here. You can't drive them to a page where there's a Google retargeting pixel or any other company's retargeting pixel. Okay? How many places can you go to and retarget using outbound call? How about retargeting using direct mail? How about retargeting using email? How about retargeting by being able to knock on the door like I was telling Boz last night? Imagine a realtor driving traffic on our in-market leads to a landing page, looking up the names of the people and the addresses of the people who are actively considering hiring that realtor, getting educated by that realtor about listing your house, and then the next day you knock on their door and canvass them. How about a home improvement company? How about a solar company? Now again, canvassing doesn't work for everybody, but I can tell you I have a home improvement company that their whole business is radio ads and canvassing. And now we tell them who to canvass. They're not just knocking doors, right? They're knocking on the right doors. Okay? Knowing gives you an advantage that you're no longer on the clock, right? What will you gain from that advantage? You can take your time. You can carry that conversation, right? You can run an ad campaign. Don't think campaigns, think conversations. You can have that campaign conversation anywhere you want, as often as you want, as long as you want. It's important because you have to develop a relationship, right? Trust is at the heart of a relationship. You have to develop trust, okay? So in market and in-funnel leads are the first two value propositions. There isn't a company in the world where you can get this. Okay? Not one. Both of them are only factors. All right? So the next one, and these next two, I broke them out as two separate, okay? And again, for those of you who run ads right now and spend money, this is going to be very, very easy for you to understand. For those of you that are a little new, this might be something you'll know much better in 2 months, okay, or 30 days. As you go forward, you'll appreciate what I'm about to say. But for those of you who are veterans of running ad campaigns, you're going to appreciate this. All right? When you run ads at Google and you run ads at Facebook, you're asking them for the targeting, right? You think you're running ads at Facebook. You're not running ads at Facebook. You're asking them for targeting to their inventory. All right? When I go to Facebook with my targeting, I'm just saying, hey, you see these 7,000 people that I say are in market looking for a realtor? I want you to run ads to them. And here's what I say. This is what I'm going to pay and not a penny over that. Now, let's just say Facebook says, you know what? I'm not going to run it. Okay. I'm going to take those 7,000. I'm going to go over to Google. I'm going to take them and go over to Twitter. I'm going to take them and go over to LinkedIn. I'm going to take them and go over to Bing. I'm going to take them and go over to Pinterest. I'm going to take them and go over to Media Math. I'm going to run mobile ads at Pocket Math. I'm going to run a direct mail campaign with a follow-up phone call from my call center. I don't care what Facebook does. Now, do I want to run ads at Facebook? Hell to the yeah. Abso-fucking-lutely. Excuse my language. Absolutely. Now, I'm not anti-anybody, but I'll do it on my terms. I'm going to do it where I get the best benefit. They're not the powerful. We're the powerful, right? They're a powerful supplier that we now take advantage of, right? It's run of network. Someone said to me one day, I've had terrible luck running ads at Twitter. And I've had people say to me, why would you run ads at Twitter? You know, like, really? Well, let me ask you a question. If you had 7,000 people that are actively pursuing a purchase of what you sell, let's say solar panels, right? Boss. Run ads at Twitter. If your 7,000 people who are shopping for what you sell are at Twitter, you have to be where they are. Now, do you have to run on every ad channel? I always get asked that. The answer is no, right? But you want to be able to carry a conversation with them as often as you want. Now, own and control offsets powerful buyers and powerful suppliers. I've explained to you how powerful suppliers. But before I move on to powerful buyers, let me explain something to you about owning and controlling. We said earlier that you know before anyone else is in market. You know who's on your website, right? You own and control that piece of information. It's tremendous advantage over competitive companies. No one else can offer this but you. You're the first person to know when someone's looking for a PI attorney, a DWI attorney, an immigration attorney. Someone's looking to switch jobs and would consider a hospitality job for a recruiter, or is looking for a trucking job, okay? Or is looking for a trucking company, or whatever it is. You know before anyone else, which means you can start the conversation first. Now, I want to call time out for a second. I'm going to teach you something. Whether you ever do business with me ever again, you're going to need to learn this. There's a concept called frame control. Now, all that means, right, is being able to control the perspective. So think about your first love, the first person you ever fell in love with, okay? That person controls your perspective on how you see love, because if it's done right, it's how you see something. You frame an idea. You hear it a lot in politics, right? the narrative, right? How you frame an idea. Well, if you're first, okay, you pack all your power into that frame on how people see it, how it's commonly referred to as defining the value, setting the buying criteria, right? So every person that you fall in love with afterwards, after that first love, right? Because if it was done right, everything that comes after it gets compared to it. I always want to be first because I understand how to set the frame. I understand how to control the perspective on how they're going to see this. Now let's put this in relationship to owning and controlling. Remember what I said? There's only two things people are interested in. So let's say that we sell a product that solves a problem, or we deliver a result that they do not have, right? Companies want profits. That's a result they want but do not have, right? Or somebody has a toothache, or somebody wants solar panels. Whatever the situation is, they're researching a solution. And you're the first person to know this because you have in-market leads. Now you start the conversation. You're not running an ad campaign. You start the conversation. You're the first person, okay? And so what your job is you should be making them aware of, identifying all of the important and relevant issues that every prospect needs to know, needs to be aware of, and then conveniently you demonstrate how you stack up against those issues and those concerns. Okay? So if you're first and you do this right, you basically frame the idea of what the value proposition needs to be. So for example, when I talk to businesses and I'm first, I tell them, if you're not spending money on only in-market leads, that means you're advertising to the haystack. Okay? I'm not saying that eventually they may want to buy solar panels, but can you afford to be advertising to someone who 3 years from today or 5 years from today might be looking for solar panels? Now, you could advertise to everybody who has teeth, but wouldn't it be more profitable for you to only target people that have problems with their teeth, like toothaches, need veneers, need root canal, need a cleaning, need an extraction, right? Wouldn't it be better to advertise to people who are looking for a DWI attorney rather than people who drink, right? It's just not cost effective. So if I'm only focused on those people that have the problem that you solve, well, then I can educate them about all of the important issues. So I'm going to give you, I think Josh told you the story about the guy who sold the boats. So how he marketed to them was he said, look, I've been selling boats for 20 years in Long Island, and I'm going to identify all of the important and relevant issues. Now, I said to you, I'm going to teach you how to take a complete stranger to a sale. You ready? If you look at every step of your sales process, okay, think of it like this. If you break it down, when you show an ad, and when they click that ad, they're giving their time and attention, and you're giving them whatever it is you promise in that ad on the other side of that click. That's what's called a value exchange. Okay? So maybe you've heard the lie, right? Under promise and over deliver. It's a lie. Don't do that. It's deceptive, and people see right through it. Okay? Promise whatever it is you can deliver, and then deliver it. If you promise a 7, deliver a 7. Here's why. The next time you come to the point in the sales process, and they maybe have to give you something like watching a video, okay? If what you give on the other side of the promise of that video delivers, every time a value exchange goes well, you're earning some of their trust. I said to you, how do you get someone to believe that the value outweighs the cost? The first thing is they have to understand it, and the second thing is they have to believe you, right? Can you buy something you understand? Yeah. Can you buy something you understand but don't believe in? No. It wouldn't matter what you say if they don't believe you. I can understand the lie. I don't believe you. So how do you build trust is every time they take a step in the sales process, from the way they click to the page, to watch the video, to maybe filling out the form, those are all value exchanges. So here's the thing. If the click goes well, right, that's a small value exchange. So now when I ask them for an email, right, I can ask them for something larger than the previous exchange if the first exchange went well. You build trust. So let's say that they're risking 1, right, a unit of 1 with a click. It goes well. They get what you promised, right, in your ad, and they like it. So now when you get to the next thing, you could ask for, let's say, a 3. And if that goes well, you can offer a 6. And then you could offer a 10. I don't close people in one step. I break down my sales process, okay, 2 steps, 3 steps, whatever it needs to be, okay, and I make sure that the previous transaction, the previous value exchange goes well. Now, how do I guarantee it goes well? It's really simple. Pay attention. You help them. Let me say that again. You help them. What do you help them with? You help them make a smart buying decision. You help them, and this is where it gets really simple, you help them solve their problem. You do that by educating them, right? You tell them about all of the important issues, all of the relevant concerns that they need to be aware of. So to go back to my boat guy, he showed them every mistake he's learned in 20 years in people buying boats. He educated them. Now here's the really cool thing. You do it whether or not they buy from you, right? You do it regardless of when they're going to buy from you. Now this isn't a 6-month thing or a 10-month thing. Most of these sales cycles are 30 days or less. Now here's the thing. I lived in a world prior to the thing called internet, right? So you literally had to stand in front of somebody and you had to close them. You had to sit at their kitchen table. You had to sit at their conference table, right? You had to sit in their office. You physically lived in the area, right? Maybe you were visiting, but in most cases you lived in the area. You were from there. They might know some of the same people you know, okay? You had to have a relationship with them. You had to look those people in the eye. And what I've learned from that experience is that how do you build trust? You help people. You educate them about their choices, about what they need to be aware of, right? That's what I mean by defining the value. Here's what you need in the way of a value proposition, whether you buy from me or you buy from someone else, okay? When you own and control, you start the conversation before anyone else, and you can build a relationship. You can take your time, and you can build a relationship, and you can earn their trust. Now, I said this last night. There's 2 things you have to have. Absolutely. At the moment they say yes, you have to have a relationship, and you need to be at top of mind. Okay? You have to build a relationship. All right? Conversations, not campaigns. Why? Because conversations build relationships. Conversations create customers. Now here's the thing. Think about your sales process. It happens in steps, right? Conversations occur in steps. All lead nurturing is a series of conversations. Lead nurturing is the secret to lead generation, right? It's the underlying process of how you get somebody to fill out a form. You educate them. That's what marketing is. To me, marketing is nothing more than the educating of the customer, right? There's a saying that I always do in my training. I always ask this. It's a Peter Drucker thing. You know, when does marketing start? Now, I won't minimize my screen to see the answers, but I'm going to tell you the answer. You ready? Marketing starts before the product is even created. Marketing is about developing a product. for a very specific audience. Okay? So when you think about your value proposition, it's focusing on a specific customer segment, all right? And that requires you to consider who you are not going to serve and what the associated trade-off of that is, right? That's why we're having you focus on a vertical, a very specific audience. You want to start a conversation with them. You want to start it first. You want to have the ability to have as long a conversation as you need, as many places you need to have it, so that you can build a relationship. How do you build a relationship? One step at a time. You help them get where they want to go. That's it. And where do they want to go? It's human nature, right? It's human nature demands that the buyer always wants to make the best decision possible. How can you make the best decision possible if you're not educating yourself? Now, if we're selling packs of gum, there's not a lot of education that goes into that. It's not a complex sale. But your clients, the guys that you're going into these verticals, these aren't easy decisions. Not maybe hiring somebody for a dentist. That's a different story. Buying a car, these are $30,000, $40,000 decisions, right? Hiring an attorney, getting a new job, right? These are expensive decisions. There's a lot of research that goes into it, hence InMarket. We're targeting people while they're researching. So owning and controlling means you can start the conversation anytime you want before any of your rivals. It means you can have that conversation anywhere you want, as often as you want, as long as you want, about any topics you want. Google does not get to dictate what's on your landing page anymore. Okay? So the next thing is not paying on a usage basis. Strictly an economic value proposition, right? When you go to Facebook and Google, they're charging you per impression, right? I don't care if they're charging you on a per click. They're calculating how much to charge you per click by how much money they make per thousand. They figure it out on the back end on a CPM basis. Now, what that means is you're not going to Facebook and Google and asking them for targeting. You're only asking them for inventory. You're saying, wherever these 7,000 people go, this is what I want to pay. Now, here's the really cool thing. When you go to Facebook, when you get into the best practices with us, we always tell you to let them choose the price. Don't dictate the price. Let it run for 2 or 3 days. And what happens is simple. You're going to get a high CTR, and therefore your cost per click is going to come down. When you upload those 7,000 people, you're going to ask Facebook or Google or YouTube for a lookalike match, a behavioral lookalike match, and you're going to get a high CTR. And because of that, you're going to get a low cost per click. So owning and controlling also means that you provide the targeting. You don't need them for the targeting. Okay? And then when you compound that with getting a high click-through rate, you're going to pay a very low cost per click. Okay? So what it is that you're not going to the ad channel and asking them for the targeting. You pay one time, own it completely, use it as often as you want, use it at as many places as you want, use it in conjunction with in-funnel, right? Use it online, use it offline, use multi-device. And what that means is, the advantage is, you're going to get a lower cost per click, right? You're going to get a lower cost per click. And the advantage, the gain from that advantage is simple. You're going to get a lower cost per acquisition. Lower cost per click, lower cost per acquisition. Now, here's the cool thing. And this is where it gets really, really cool. We have lowered our first click cost by as much as 75%, 25 to 75%. Okay? I was telling you the story last night about the cancer hospital lowering their cost per acquisition on their leads by over 1,000%, from $250 to $25. How did they do that? They were getting really, really cheap clicks, and they were getting a lot of those clicks to convert. Okay? Our Auto deals, same thing. We typically pay about $1 to $1.50 on a PPC ad. We pay about $1 on a click to call. Those are very, very low numbers. Now, here's the other advantage. In automotive, the sales cycle is 16 weeks. So a cookie lasting 4 weeks. Let's say I was paying $7. That's what everyone else is paying, $5 to $7 to get a first click on an auto deal. And the cookie expires in 4 weeks. If they want to bring that person back, they got to pay that first click cost a second time. Okay? When you own and control and you're not paying on usage, think about it from like a Google PPC perspective. If it's $12 a click and you're getting it for $1 a click, you're getting it for 50 cents a click, I mean, that's significant, right? Those are the advantages of owning and controlling and not paying on a usage. Now, what I mean by usage is that if you go to Facebook for advertising and you get it dialed in, you can't take that advertising, that dialed in targeting, over to Google. You got to pay again at Google to run that same process. Costs you twice as much. You're paying on usage. You're paying on a CPM basis. Even though you're paying on a PPC, you're paying on a CPM because they're calculating how much money they're making per 1,000 ads. CPM, cost per 1,000. M is Roman numeral for 1,000. Right? A relevance algorithm calculates on 1,000 basis. So what we're talking about is owning and controlling the data. You no longer have a powerful buyer. Excuse me, a powerful supplier problem. You're totally in control. Now, I'm not saying don't run ads at Google. I'm not saying don't run ads at Facebook. You should. But what you shouldn't do is if they change any of their terms, they change any of their pricing, you're not obligated to stay there. You're not being held hostage. Now, let's talk about powerful buyers. All right? Typically, buyers force you to lose profits by asking for more of whatever it is you're selling, or they're asking for a lower price, right? I want 10 pounds instead of 5. I want $10 instead of 50, you know? And both of those are going to cost you profits. Well, if you're the first person to reach out to them and you own and control, and you could get frame control, and you can define the value, and you could set the buying criteria, okay? And you're paying on a usage basis where you're paying less per click, okay? To have a competitive advantage, you have to do one of two things or both, okay? So compared to a rival, you operate at a lower cost, command a premium price, or both. Now, if I can get a cost per acquisition lower than someone else, another competitor, right? A rival dentist, a rival law firm, a rival recruiting company, a rival trucking company, whatever it is I'm competing against, whoever it is from a rival standpoint, if I could operate at a lower cost, right? Cost per acquisition is in the value chain. Acquiring a client is in the value chain. Then I'm going to have a competitive advantage. Now, how do I get a premium price? Well, I can tell you that right now. Most people don't buy on price. I'm saying not all, but most. There are some people, no matter what you do in developing a relationship, they're shopping on price. There's nothing you can do about those people. Let them go to someone else. But the other people who are looking for the right solution, I can tell you that if I had a sick relative, I don't care how poor I wasn't going to shop on price, right? If the problem is acute, if the problem is urgent, serious, I'm not going to shop on price. I'm going to look for the best opportunity to solve my problem. Okay? So for me, getting a premium price means being first, controlling the perspective with frame control, defining the value, setting the buying criteria, building a relationship, being the one that educates them. Because let me tell you something. When I educated somebody and I had to sit in their office, here's the thing I've learned. You're now 2 nights on the phone with me, watching your computer, listening to me talk. It is physically impossible for you to not to have some trust in me. The reason is there's no way you invest this much time without you having some level of trust. Right? Do you always spend time on the phone? Do you always invest all this time in someone you don't trust? I'm not saying you trust me with your kids, you can leave. I'm just saying you're building trust with me. So when I sell to people, before I sat down with them face to face, I never tried to go in there cold. I always like to get them some information in their hands, and my response is always the same. What I want you to do is I want you to review the information. Now, here's the deal. If you want to cancel the appointment, just call me so I can get somebody else on that schedule, right? Because my time is valuable, and this is how I feed my family. But I want you to make one promise. The information I give you, you need to be aware of it. You need to use that to make a smart buying decision, whether you buy from me or you buy from someone else. In there is everything you need to be aware of, every issue, every concern, and every danger. Okay? So whether you buy from me or not, you need to be aware of that stuff. All right? And if you're going to cancel our Thursday at 6 p.m. appointment, show me the courtesy so that I can feed my family by getting somebody else in that time slot. Because I only have so many hours in the day. Right? I love talking to people face to face after I help them. Because then I would go in and I would start a conversation and I would find out what their problems were. I'd find out what their motivation was to solve that problem. All right? Because once I know what their motivation is, what their purpose in life is, why they were looking to do this, what was driving them, right? Motivation is an outcome. Once I know the outcome they're looking for, it's a simple thing. Do I have the ability to deliver that outcome? If I don't, I send them in the right direction, if I can, right? Point them in the right direction. But if I do have the ability to deliver that outcome, game over. When I'm not paying full, retail price, I'm paying well below wholesale, I have the ability to take my time digitally. I have the ability to advertise them on multiple channels, okay? Which brings me to the next value proposition. Portable, right? These leads are portable, right? You could go to 13 ad channels: Facebook, Google, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, Amazon, Bing, every major, I should say, DSP, Media Math, they all accept email or a hash. Okay? Pocket Math allows you to do mobile. YouTube allows you to do video. Right? Google, Facebook, you could do click to call. You can run direct mail. You're not limited, which means, like I said, not only can you start the conversation first, you can have the conversation wherever your prospects go. If your prospects go to Twitter, you need to be there, right? I always tell people, upload the leads. Don't run ads. Just upload the leads and turn it on, but make it like, you're going to spend $1 a day. Just see how many impressions you could potentially get. When you see how many impressions you can get at Pinterest and Twitter, and you ask yourself, well, they're there, I should be there too. Now, here's the thing. If I sent you an email every single day, 3 times a day, it would be a nuisance. But if I sent you a Facebook ad, and then an Instagram ad, and then a YouTube ad, and then a banner ad, and then a mobile ad, and then a direct mail piece, right? I could spread all of my touches across multiple channels. I'm being repetitive without being repulsive. I'm being consistent without being overbearing. And as I said last night, here's the thought experiment. You ready? You've seen 100,000 ads in the last 30 days. Name 5. Portable means that I can always be top of mind. Remember what I said. You have to have 2 things. At the precise moment when a prospect is ready to tender a yes, when they're ready to make that purchase, you as the marketer must be there at that precise moment in a relationship based on the problem that they have, okay? And that means you have to have trust, and you need to be top of mind. Portable means that you're always going to be top of mind, right? Why? Because people act on what they remember, not on what they forget. Can you act on what you forgot? Think about it. In the last 24 hours since we spoke last, you've seen easy 100 ads. Name one. And if you're being honest, you're not able to answer. And if you are, I would ask you a series of questions. Okay, tell me what the message was. Right? See if you can remember it. And people go, it's impossible. We forget. So how do you get somebody to remember a message? Here's what you need to do. Whether you hire me, do business with me, you need to do this from now on. Okay? There was a very, very famous study that Harvard did. Okay? They looked at all of these companies, okay, in the same industry to try and figure out why one was more profitable than the next. They looked at every single solitary variable they could get their hands on. And the difference was advertising. The companies who made the most money advertised the most. Now, if you're advertising to the haystack, if you're advertising to everybody in your marketplace, that's expensive, right? Being repetitive is going to be expensive. But if you're only advertising to the needles instead of the haystack, you could be repetitive. And as I taught you last night, mastery is three things: the correct information, every day, spaced over time. All right? So how do you make your message get mastered? There's three ways to do it. The first one is to get somebody to reflect. When a prospect reflects back on a new message, they optimize learning, right? Every day, we're going to give them the message spaced over time. The correct information is what you put in the ad, right? So I either stated my value proposition, which answers the question, here's why you need to buy from me, rather than my competitor. I put it in the ad. Or I supported it, right? I gave them proof to back up why they should buy, why they should believe what I'm stating. That's it. You state the value proposition, we support the value proposition with proof. Over and over and over. 75% of my auto ads, we didn't even put calls to action in there. We were literally putting our messaging in the ad. Now, we could do that because we're only advertising to the needles, not the haystack. And because we're owning and controlling and not paying on a usage basis, I get the cheapest possible price because I get the highest click-through rates. So not only can I advertise across multiple channels, I could do it at the least possible cost at each and every channel. The main pathway to getting somebody to engage with your company is reflection. Every day, spaced over time, it optimized the learning of the message, right? The message will always be at the forefront of the memory, and it can never reveal its meaning unless it stays at the forefront, okay? That's Memory 101. When a prospect reflects back on a new message, they optimize the learning. The message has to remain at the forefront. Otherwise, you cannot reveal its meaning. If they keep forgetting it, if you're running the ad multiple times in a day, every day, spaced over time, the amount of reflection each and every time will get optimized. Each and every time, they're going to remember a little bit more, a little bit more, and a little bit more. Okay? The second way to do that is to get them to re-engage with the message. Okay? All we're talking about is that re-engagement is what they re-engage with what they remembered. Right? It's not just reflecting back, but to re-engage. Okay? The more time they re-engage with what they remember, the better they remember it. right? It's spaced learning over a period of time rather than cramming, right? So if you study every day for a month, when you do the second day in the month, you're not just learning, but you're reflecting back, yes, getting engaged also on what you remembered from the day before. You're re-remembering it, okay? Spaced learning versus cramming. And then the second part, the third part is relate, all right? A message that can provide an example that the prospect can relate to, right? That's why we always showed proof. Some cases we were showing the J.D. Power Awards, but in most cases we were advertising the reviews. We were trying to get them to relate, right, to seeing somebody that they can relate to. That's why testimonials are so powerful. When people see it, they relate to the person in the picture. Then everything becomes more powerful and therefore more memorable. Okay? It allows them to have that aha moment, right, where the brain makes those remote connections. So I'm going to call time out a second, and I'm going to tell you, I always love to talk about something that we're developing, right? We just acquired the Facebook database, right? Information from the Facebook database. Now, imagine, we're a long way from doing this, but this is definitely on our developmental calendar. We had it in our last meeting. But imagine being able to advertise and show a testimonial of somebody that they're already connected to on Facebook or LinkedIn. So that way when we show them a support of our value proposition in the form of a testimonial or a review, it's somebody that they know, somebody they can relate to. It'll make everything more powerful and therefore more memorable. Right? We can mention people that live in their neighborhood. Maybe you may not know Susie, but she lives on, Dawson Street. You know that Dawson Street is 3 blocks away from where they live. Oh, wow. They can relate to that. Somebody in their neighborhood, somebody they know, somebody their kids go to school with, right? Somebody, some way to relate. So what Portable allows you to be is to be everywhere your prospect goes. They go to Twitter, you're there. They use their mobile device, you're there. They go to their mailbox, you're there. Every time they turn around, they get a message from us. You think it's any coincidence the biggest companies in the world run the most ads? Okay? That's how they do it. But now I'm showing you how to do it affordably by not advertising to everybody, but only those people that are actively pursuing a purchase of what you sell and who are in funnel actively considering and preparing to buy from you. Okay? There's a famous quote from David Ogilvy, and it's something like, I don't know who you are, I don't know who your company is, I don't know who your product is, I don't know what your company stands for, what your company's record is, what your company's reputation is. Now, what was it that you wanted to sell me? And the point is that if you advertise, you have the ability inside that single ad to contain a micro message. Even if they don't click. Not everything has to be a click, a call to action. I'm not saying don't, but I'm definitely saying you should be advertising things so that you're always top of mind and you can educate them and build their memory, their recall, by getting them to reflect and re-engage and to relate. And you can only do that cost effectively if you could advertise across multiple channels, multiple devices, online or offline, if you own and control the data and you do not pay on a usage basis. Okay? And here's where the rubber really meets the road. All of these things no one else can offer. But here's really the coup de grace. I can compare who you close to who we advertise to. No one else can do that digitally. And the advantage of that is that you're going to be able to maintain accuracy, always being able to show that what you're doing is paying dividends in the form of profits, in the form of sales. Okay? Everything you do can be traced back to who you started marketing to. Everything you produce can be traced back to you, which means that their limited resources, their limited ad budget, their urgency of getting profits in the door can be tracked like no one else in the business. And because you have 100% sales match accountability, you have the ability to not only match and show that you can deliver, show that your efforts are being, are producing results, and that you're a smart purchase, a smart business decision, a smart buying decision. But the most important thing about the sales match accountability is this. By having that feedback on all of your sales, we're able to get better. When I explain to people what a closed loop is, it's simple. It's feedback. It's a perpetual feedback loop, right? That perpetual feedback loop allows me to address whether I was right or wrong. And if I was right, do more of it. If I was wrong, make the adjustment. The advantage is now when you run ads and you don't do well, are you leveraging what little you did well? Like, let's say you run ads now at Facebook and you get some clicks, and then they turn it off, or you can't afford it anymore because it's too expensive. Well, you did have some success. Can you leverage that success? No. And let's say you got Facebook dialed in. Can you take that over to Google? Can you take that over to Pinterest? Can you take that to television? Do you really think we're not going to be doing television, radio, and print? Absolutely. It's called addressable TV. I'll tell you a quick story. Print. You ready? People-based marketing. And this happened like 3-4 years ago. The store Target, okay, went to Time Life, the magazine, Time magazine, okay? And Time has everybody that they're subscribers. They have their email address, right? And they ran ads based on what they were researching online in print, right? So every person got an ad, and they had a target ad in there. And that target ad was directly targeted to that person, right? Instead of mass advertising, it's mass custom advertising. It's one-to-one advertising. It's people-based marketing. Okay? TV, I'm already having conversations with Roku. I'm already having conversations with Hulu. Now, we're a ways away from that, but how hard is it? We're targeting 100 million people. How do people log into Hulu and Roku? Email. All we do is connect the hash, and now we can onboard our ads and run to individual people. Radio, same thing. Radio is through digital. It's all going to come online. It's only a matter of time. We're the first ones to offer direct mail. Targeting with direct mail off of digital behavior. It wasn't complicated, right? You understand how it works. So think about adding in to all of that power a closed loop machine learning algorithm. Okay? Closed loop machine learning, all that means is we're constantly feeding back to the machine. As we said last night, it's really simple. All machine learning is a system that can learn from data. Data is the teacher. The data that we submit is all of the chronological behavior, the path that leads up to the purchase, the chronological path to purchase. We take that information and we feed it to the algorithm. It's called the training sample. We're training, we're educating the machine. And we're saying, learn from this. Target people who have this behavior. Now think about it. Let me give you a simple example. Somebody walks into your store and they're redheaded and they're left-handed. One person. Are all your prospects red-headed left-handers? No. Now, what happens if 1,000 people come in and 92% of them are red-headed left-handers? Well, then guess what? You should be targeting red-headed left-handers. So when you take the training sample, the path to purchase for each and every individual sale you make or each and every opt-in you get, form fill out or click, any conversion you want to define, we take all the behavior that led up to that conversion for each and every person that you converted, and we feed it to the algorithm. Now let's say that some of the behavior, like we said last night, Josh's behavior was rock climbing. That has nothing to do with buying solar panels. So if he's the only one out of 100 people, the machine learns that that behavior has no value. Now, let's say Josh was the first one. The machine looks at that behavior, has no choice but to value it. But the second one comes in, and they don't have rock climbing. And then the third one, and they don't have rock climbing. It slowly lowers the value of the behavior. It doesn't completely take it to zero. It just lowers the weight that it gives it. Okay? The best thing about machines is that there's no emotion. It's strictly empirical data. There's no guessing. It's all constant split testing. And it's being done at the highest levels. So long as you have that closed loop, that perpetual feedback loop, our system is always going to get the targeting better and better and better. With each and every success, the algorithm automatically optimizes. It's called auto-optimization. Think about that. So when you upload that 7,000 people to Facebook and ask for a match back today, as you start to get conversion, you're going to be able to get a much greater match back as the algorithm gets smarter, as the machine gets smarter. Okay? All we're talking about is artificial intelligence. A subset of artificial intelligence is machine learning. A subset of machine learning is deep learning. It's not important that we get into the nuances of what type of algorithms. We test all kinds. But the idea is that machine gets perpetually fed success and failure, and it learns. There's always a learning. Even in failure, there's a learning. And in each and every instance, our algorithm gets smarter. There's nobody in your vertical that is providing the type of targeting you're providing. Nobody can provide InMarket. Nobody can tell you who's in market actively by name. No one could tell you who's in your funnel. Nobody. You're the only one. But not only can you do that, but you've got a built-in system like a pencil sharpener that just continues to refine and sharpen and get more accurate. And what does that mean from an advantage standpoint? That means that you're always going to get the best targeting that produces the greatest click-through, which gives you the lowest cost per click, which results in the greatest amount of conversions and the least amount of cost to acquire that conversion. It's a perpetual feedback loop. And what you own. Now, Brent reminded me to say this to you, and I forgot to say this to you last night, and I should have said it to you first. But I want to tell you something. All of this is yours. I tell this to everybody that we do business with, your client included, and you're going to say this to your customers. When you go to bed at night tonight, I want you to think about this software being yours. You own it. This is yours. You're the only person that has this. Okay? Your client will be the only person that will have this. They'll be able to beat their rivals. They'll be able to handle all the powerful buyers that come their way. They're going to be able to beat the powerful suppliers. And if new companies get into their vertical and compete against them, they're going to take one good look at them and realize they don't want to compete. threat of entry is not an issue for you or for your client. You own this. You literally own this. This is now part of your company. This is yours. I tell everybody, I want you to think of this company as yours. This technology is yours. You own it. The fact that we're a vendor is irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. The fact of anybody even knowing my name, I could give a shit about that. I want to win. I want you to win. I want your client to win. And the technology that we utilize, owning, controlling, paying on a usage, having the greatest flexibility, being portable, being the leverage, every single solitary thing that we could possibly leverage, and feeding all of that data into an algorithm that just continues to get smarter and smarter about one thing. Where are our greatest probabilities of profit? Where are our quickest paths to profit? What is the best use of our resources for profit? What is the largest opportunity today for profit? That's what this machine predicts. And every time you feed back the results of that prediction in a closed loop, perpetual feedback loop, you're going to build a profile. Now think about that. Not only can I tell you who's in market actively pursuing a purchase of what you sell, not only can I tell you who's in funnel considering and potentially buying from you, but I possess a technology that knows of every behavior that predicts that with the greatest amount of accuracy of any company in the world, in your vertical, in your zip code. I know every keyword search that matters. I know every URL navigation point that matters. I know every campaign response, every social media behavior, every mobile behavior, every content consumption for every single person in your marketplace. And if they dip a toe into any behavior, we're instantly tracking them. And we're comparing it to our conversion behavior profile. And you're going to know first, you're going to know where they are in the sales cycle. Basically, I'm a profit monitor. I know your greatest probability for profit, your quickest path to profit, your best use of resources for profit, and your largest opportunity today for profit. And I don't know this personally. I've been using bleeding edge technology. And what this profile is this. It looks at every single person in your geographic area. And it looks at all of their digital, online and offline behavior. And the second that they do one thing that could potentially indicate interest in what you have to sell, I'm on it. And what our software does and our technology does is it starts to watch them. And as they commit the second behavior and the third behavior and the fourth behavior, our software is comparing it to the behavior of hundreds, not just in your area, but all over the country. All of the behavior of people who have bought exactly what you sell. And it determines. And the reason why this matters is you're never going to spend a dollar that doesn't deserve to be spent. I'm going to maximize every nickel, every penny on only those prospects that deserve it. Only those prospects that have the greatest probability of handing you profit. Only those prospects that are the quickest path for you to generate profit. The best use of your resources for profit. The largest opportunity you have today in your marketplace for profits. And I'm able to do that because of my conversion behavior profile tracking your marketplace. No other company has that. No other company is tracking this nationwide. You're the only person that's going to have this. Those are our only factors. This is why companies hire you. Okay? This is why companies hire you. All the things that I just told you about. What it is, what it does, and how it does it is important, but you have to give them the advantage. How is this an advantage over what you currently do? How is, for example, conversion behavior an advantage? Well, let me ask you a question. You pick the vertical. How do those companies know when somebody does the first behavior that might be indicative of interest in what they have to sell, or the 50th behavior? Is that an advantage to know that information? I wish that I had the slide here, but the slide that I led off this presentation with last night was knowing something. You know, that was a quote from Aristotle Onassis, the shipping magnate. I forgot to give him credit for that. I apologize to Aristotle. Okay? Knowing something that others do not know has a lot to do with why people are successful. Think about, I'll go backwards, okay? Think about what you now know. You know who's in market actively pursuing. You know who's in your funnel considering and preparing to buy from you. You know when to start the conversation. You know where you can have it. You know how often you can have it. You know what the topic can be. And no one else can offer that. Because Google and Facebook dictate when, where, and how, and what you can say. Powerful supplier. Okay? You know you can control price because you already own the data. You're going to get the best possible targeting price there is. You know you can control price. It's not speculative anymore. You can go to whatever channel you need to go to. If you see one raising their prices costing you money, your cost goes up, you move to another channel. You're no longer channel dependent. You know you have flexibility. You know you can carry this conversation as long as you want, wherever you want, as often as you want, as often as necessary. What else do you know? You know that you can track sales against your efforts. You know that you can prove that every penny they invest in you as a company is a good investment or a bad investment. Downside to that, right? You got to actually deliver. Now, all of that being said, you feed all of that information into a machine, you don't have to know shit. We're going to do it for you. And all of that education, all of that feedback, right? You can't improve what you don't measure. That's what feedback is. That's what a closed loop is, a perpetual feedback loop. Perpetual, over, close. Nothing ever gets outside the loop. Everything gets fed back. Everything, again and again and again, over and over and over. With each revolution, we're going to build up a profile. And we're going to sit and we're going to measure the behavior of your entire marketplace. We're like a watchdog. And the second somebody dips a toe in the market, we let you know. Okay? Here's something else we do. If you have clients and they get back in the market, now this isn't for every vertical, but I can tell you right now, for a lot of verticals like automotive, they call it brand migration, right? They don't want someone to leave. You want to grow the lifetime value. You don't want them sneaking off and buying from someone else. You want to know, and you want to start re-advertising to them and getting them back in the fold. Okay? So in automotive, there's other ones where that's very, very important. Home improvement companies. We had a home improvement company that had a bunch of different services. Now, if someone's already bought from you and it went well, and they didn't know that they could do siding with you and they already did windows, and we know, so what they do is they onboard their sales, and as they get back in the market, we notify them, right? Call it in-market alert. They're back in market. Okay? And front of mind. The most important thing is developing a relationship and being front of mind. Every day, that they're having that problem, you're going to be front and center on some channel somewhere multiple times per day in a cost-effective way, constantly showing them why they should buy from you. And here's the proof as to why they should buy from you. You're going to rub their nose in it. But you're not going to do it in a way that they're going to notice because you're spreading it across multiple channels. Okay? Josh, that's it.
Awesome. All right, guys. So that was great. A lot to chew on. A lot of different ways to understand this value proposition. We're going to be working with all you guys on how this all relates to the verticals you're in and what that means specifically for your clients. So a lot of fun stuff. So let's see if we got any questions right here. And I can answer some of these to get started. So one of the first questions is, can we put a Smart Pixel on a ClickFunnels page?
Yes.
You can put a Smart Pixel on any page. It's a pixel. So if you can put a pixel on it, you're going to be just fine. Christopher, any travel niches that we've analyzed?
You know, it's funny you mentioned travel, but I track people at Orbitz, you know, Priceline, you name it, man. We track them on the travel, cruise.com, a bunch of them. But we didn't have that as one of the 55, but maybe that's something we should take a look at. So from a data standpoint, I know we have it. It's very complicated in that there's a lot of product inside travel, so we need to kind of get a little dialed in on that. But the answer is we could do it, and we'd definitely be open to it if we thought that was a good vertical. Right now, we've selected 55. We'd like to get to 100, but we were kind of hoping to get some feedback from you guys. So I'm sure Brent is on the call, or if not, I'll make a note. We'll look into the travel.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I got it.
All right, cool.
All right, is there a demo? So Gabe, I mean, I'm gonna shoot you guys a video that walks through like the platform, but I mean the platform isn't very special. It's just downloading the file. What's special is what happens behind the scenes.
Give me 1 second. I turned my screen off for a second. I'm going to pull up a spreadsheet. Go ahead, Josh. I want to show some of these to the guys. Give me a sec.
So Tommy's going to pull that up. But yeah, the interface for actually getting your leads is not. We didn't go for the design award. We went for the functionality. And you put in your campaigns. It spits out every week, every Tuesday. It gives you your file of your InMarket leads for that campaign. They're graded by how hot they are. And Tommy, I'm sure you'll speak to that when you've got a file pulled up. And then from there, we're going to run trainings for you guys on how to load these into a campaign, step-by-step on how to do it. But the only step that's different than any normal campaign is you're just going to be loading in this targeting and using that as part of what you do. So while Tommy's working on that, I'll answer another question.
Yeah, give me a second, guys.
So for Dan, how do you prove your client their customers are coming from this process? Well, it's quite simple, Dan. So if they give us a customer list, we can show them exactly what we marketed to. Let's say they say, hey, John Smith was a customer. We can say, all right, well, let's show you exactly what John Smith did. Well, look at that. He clicked on one of our ads, and then he clicked on this ad, and he clicked on all these different ads over the last month while he was considering buying from you, and then he became a client, right? So that's how we're able to show the attribution. As you take your clients, we match them into who we're tracking and who we marketed to, and that's how you got the attribution. That's simple. And Kyle, how do we ensure that each completed transaction gets fed back? So as Tommy mentioned, there's multiple levels we can analyze at. We can analyze at clicks, we can analyze at opt-ins, or we can analyze, what's that?
Form fill.
Yep, leads, people that fill out, give us their information, and then the last level is the hash file of buyers. That's the ideal data we want. Once in a while you get a client that's not comfortable doing that. We're going to be training you guys to set that as part of the condition of working with you. Because if they're not willing to give us sales, they're only hurting themselves. right?
Here's
Because
the
they're
thing. I would probably say, Josh, if you're doing lead, form fills, you're going to have a really good algorithm for predicting sales because the sales are in that small group of leads. You're not getting 20,000 leads and only 5 sales. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
when you sit down with your clients and they see the high number of sales, it takes a little time. Maybe they don't do it in the first 30 days. It's okay, and we'll walk you through it. But here's the thing. You sign a contract, you sign a confidentiality. We can show them how to convert their email addresses to a hash. There's things that we can do to kind of protect the PII, the personal identifiable information. But we have some scripts that we've used. But the one thing that you're going to sit down and tell your clients is that I use those sales to help predict more sales. If you give this to me, you're helping you. You don't have to, but you're making my job a little harder. Not a ton, but I like perfection, and I think you want perfection from me. And so it just takes a little education. People get a little freaky with telling us who their sales are. That's fine. If they don't do it, we know from the form fills, you're going to be able to produce a tremendous amount of sales from the form fills. All right?
Yep.
Josh, I want to show an example. I pulled this up. Let me see if you guys can see my screen here.
Yep.
All right. So this isn't the spreadsheet that we give you, but this is, I won't show you the whole hash, right? Because you could easily append this and see who this person is, and I don't want to show behavior with the hash, but the hash goes out a little bit further to the right. So this is just a sample, okay? A sample of one person's behavior, okay? It's not every behavior that they committed. It's not everything in and around buying a car, but it's just a sample so you can see get an idea of how easy it is. Now, where this person is geographically, we know, but we also get where the behavior happened. Like the guy could be on a computer. This particular person was in the zip code 82007 or 82901. He was on a laptop, right? So he was away at school, but he was looking for a car purchase in Georgia. So our client in Utah was pissed off. Like, why are you giving me Georgia leads? He was in Utah when he was doing the work. He was doing the research. He moved, he went back home from school. All right, so it just goes to show you, but what we would have done is when we push it to you, you're going to know because you can look at the zip codes of where they're from. All right, so, and this isn't, every day and every behavior for the day, as you can see here. This is just one day, April 7th. All right, and then it goes into multiple days, and you'll see this is only like a week, okay? But I want to show you the behavior here, okay, which is what everybody likes to look at. So let's take a look. My apologies, you get to see the rest of my screen here. All right. So they were playing Call of Duty Infinite Warrior, so kind of gives you an idea of the type of person. Then he went to Edmunds, and he was looking at used SUVs, okay? Now, the one thing I could tell you, having looked at a ton of these, a lot of times pages refresh, and so that's why you see it repeat over and over again. In this particular case, a lot of those pages at Edmunds have all sorts of things where you can like assemble a car. You've seen those, and you never leave the page. So it just refreshes. So while this looks like 1,000 behaviors, it's not. It's probably, the same behavior, but they did it for like 20 minutes to an hour, okay? So obviously he's looking at used cars in Stockbridge, Georgia, used SUVs, okay? Now, when you go to the page, which we do, we go in and we take a look at, let me see what else we have over here. What else is that? I forget what that is. Oh, that was our numbers. I'm sorry. I'll show you the lead score here in a second. All right. We do go to these pages. We do look at the semantic meaning of the page. We look at the title tags, everything. So we'll be looking at the type of used SUV. This is just the URL. We rely on a lot more than just what's in the URL. But it kind of just gives you an idea. Would you say that this guy's in the market for a car? You know, it's pretty safe to say that this guy's in the market for a car. This is a ton of auto behavior. It's over and over and over again. And then as we get down a little lower, he switches, okay, goes from Edmunds to Kelly Blue Book, and now he's looking at a Kia Optima. Then he's looking at a Hyundai Sonata. Then he's looking at a Nissan Maxima, okay? Then he goes to Walmart for the Money Center, okay? Then he goes to Best Buy. We don't know what he's looking at Best Buy. He starts to do a search, but he leaves, goes back to Walmart. Now look at it. Now tell me what you think he's in the market for here, okay? Let me just make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. He's looking at a Dell Precision, a refurbished Dell Precision. Then he's looking at a 15-inch laptop. Then he's looking at a Hewlett-Packard ZBook, a refurbished new Dell, an HP Compact. I mean, does it take a rocket scientist to figure out that this guy's looking for a laptop? Okay. Keep going down. He goes to eBay now. Now he's looking at an HP Pavilion, a Compact. Goes to Newegg. Okay. I mean, and then here's what happens. He stops looking. He bought it. Now, how did I know he was a college student? I knew before we actually looked him up and seen how old he was. He was a cheapo air, right? And he's looking for airplane tickets. And this is how I knew he was a student. Student travel. Now, if he's not the student, he's the parent. But obviously, we have an idea that, you know, this person is basically, in this one snapshot, looking at cars, looking at laptops, and looking for airplane tickets. I mean, is it that difficult to figure out what someone's in the market for? All right.
I think the tax return is kind of interesting there too, filing the late tax.
You know
return.
what's funny? I forgot that one. Thank you. Where was that? Right here. Right. And he filed his tax return late. Now look at the date. The date that he did that was April 20th. I mean, again, we're just looking at the URL level behavior, right? We're not looking at the individual what's on the page necessarily, which we are from a technology standpoint. But does it take a rocket scientist to see that this guy plays video games, is in the market for a car, obviously looked at and bought a laptop, or at least figured out which one he wanted? He filed his tax returns late, and he's a student who's flying. Now, how do I know where he lives? He's looking for cars in Stockbridge, Georgia, and these zip codes are in Utah. Okay? So I have one more. Okay, Josh, ask some questions, and I'll set the next one up.
All right. From Kyle here. How do we ensure that completed transactions? Hey, Tommy, why don't you pause your screen when you're digging around stuff?
I thought I was. Sorry. I thought it was paused.
That's all right. So, Kyle, how do we ensure that each completed transaction gets fed back into closed loop? Kind of covered that, guys. We can at least optimize by form fills. That's still pretty good. If we can get sales, it just helps a lot. Question from Mark here. Because we have a historical payment, you're still sharing your screen here, Tom.
Yep.
All right.
Sorry.
Cool. All right. Because we have historical payment paths info right here, will the data we have show us how ready a person is to make a purchase in terms of the level of interest?
Yes.
If so, do we market to them differently?
Yes. So in the very early going, we'll give you a lead score, but here's the thing on lead scores. Until we really switch to the algorithm outside of we start out with keyword and URL level behavior, right, what we'll do is you'll get an early lead score. And the reason we do that early is because anything above a 7 is somebody who is in funnel, and you sell should be 7.5, and you should be, marketing to them differently. That doesn't mean you should be turning around and saying, hey, I know you were at the website on Tuesday. We don't disclose any of that, but obviously you know. But as you go along, you're going to see the lead scores change as your campaign matures, right? All of that prediction, it needs multiple feedbacks, right? The more feedback we get, the more accurate we can say somebody's beginning, right? So in automotive, like somebody could be a 3, and you go, whoa, that's a terrible lead. No, it's not. It's early, right? So you'll start to see leads numbers go up, right? We're tracking on the back end. Each one of these, like if someone, that guy, the last one I showed you, goes to Edmunds, let's say, we call that a session. All right, so we look at things like how recent was the session, how frequent are the sessions, and how deep are the sessions, okay? So how often do they do it? How much do they do? And all of that stuff gets fed into the algorithm. And then we predict, and then we get measurement on that prediction on the feedback. Did we get a click? Did we get a form fill? And we need more of that. But so what I'm going to tell you in the beginning is don't even focus on the lead score other than 7.5 or higher. But I will tell you, as you get more mature and you see somebody at 7 to 7.5, I think that guy's a rock star, but he hasn't been to your page yet. 6.5, very, very strong, hasn't been to your page yet. I can't do that in the early going. I can only tell you there's a ton of behavior, but it's not, you'll know, like a week, a month in, it's still not enough time for us to really get this dialed in. But once you get rocking in a vertical and it gets mature, and you're going to know the lead scores, it's like if you need to get belly to belly with that guy. You need to get him on the phone. You need to get face to face. You need to get that person to fill out a form. And so the best way to do that is to come up with the right incentive. So when we get into more conversion training, but yeah, to answer your question, you really should pay attention and adjust your marketing. But in the beginning, the goal is simple. Drive your in-market to your page and then retarget your in-funnel, because now we know they're more than just interested. They're interested in you. All right?
Yep. Next
so
question.
Can I walk you through this one real quick?
Yep. Hop right in.
So here. Sorry, I know I'm showing my screen. So Travelocity in the Bahamas, right, starts out it's April 10th. They went to Kohl's. They're reading CNN about the San Bernardino school shooting. Okay. I happened to look up this Manta.com for Hauppauge, New York, and this real estate one in Jersey. All of these are commercial properties. I used to have an office in Hauppauge, and it's one of the only counties in New York that's commercial. And I had looked it up. They were looking at weather. So if you go back to Travelocity and weather, we think that they were traveling. And then they were looking for carforsale.com, looking at the vehicle details. They're looking for cars in St. George, Utah. Right? You go through more and more the vehicle detail page. Now, obviously, you can't tell what kind of car they're looking at. Obviously, we're looking at it internally. We're doing the semantic meaning for these pages all the way down the line, weather.com, and another person buying a Samsung Note, right? So, I mean, is it safe to say that this person is in the market for travel? They're going to Travelocity, looking for a car, and then they're looking for a Samsung Note at Walmart, no less. All right? Just to kind of give you an idea. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that you're only showing one day or just a little snapshot.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's
just a
millions
snippet.
of this. Yeah.
Just a snippet. All right.
All right. Next question from Mark was, how do we know when our client, in this case a mortgage borrower, is actually closing his or her loan? They can deliver sales to you that way, but still we can optimize off form fills. Sales help, but we still get a decent idea off a lead because no one can become a sale without becoming a lead. So we can't optimize off of that, but they can simply just say, hey, here's the loans we closed on, these are the days we closed on, and we can load them in that way. And this is a good one for you, Tommy. How much ad spend is required for kind of a multi-channel campaign to only target, basically your geographic in-market people? Like,
right. So it depends, obviously. Let's say, Brent, how big was the file for the recruiting one we did the other day? It was like 50,000 was in the file,
40,
right?
Yeah, 41. I think it was 41. Yeah.
41,000. So here's the thing: start at Facebook, start at Google, get that right. Get a match back at both those places, run those campaigns. 2 channels is a good start. The cheapest possible channel that you could run is a mobile ad, assuming is a what do you call it ad? A display ad, right? Because you're paying on a CPM basis. Let's say 40,000 people, you want to show them once a day, right? So, you're talking about running 40, times, say, 50 cents, $20 a day. It's super inexpensive. You know what I mean? So you don't have to show a banner ad every day to 40,000 people. You don't have to show a Facebook ad every day to 40,000 people, but you want to get at least 1 to 3 ads a day. Now, it's better if you could spread that across 3 different ad channels, okay? But start with Facebook, get that rocking, go to Google, get that rocking, and then, what you can do is you can run ads at a display, let's say a DSP, and just say, I only want to pay 25 cents, and I only want to show it every other day. Whatever you can figure into your ad budget. For 40,000 people, that's a lot. But let's just say in automotive, the average lead volume was 5 to 10,000. It's very low, right? In terms of, in comparison, 5,000 is a lot of people. But do your math like this. You ready? And I do it the old-fashioned way. So if you had 5,000 people and you wanted to show the ad 5 times a day times 30 days, regardless of how many platforms, that would be 750,000. Right? They charge you on 1,000 unit basis CPM. Divide 750,000 by 1,000, and then multiply it by, let's say, $1 to show 5,000 people the ad at $1 CPM, 5 times a day, 30 days in a row, costs you $750 for 5,000 people. Right? So let me do it again. 5,000 times 5 times a day times 30 days, did I do that right, is 750,000 ads in a month. At $1 an ad, $1 per 1,000, $750. Now, you might need to show them, Google and Facebook on a PPC basis rather than a CPM, but, it's not super expensive when you're talking about smaller volumes of targeting.
Yeah, and in some cases, 5,000 might be high. Like, right. I know in some of these examples, it might only be a couple thousand, but in these markets, if those are the in-market guys, I mean, really, like, I've been explaining it like this, in some of these markets, you can spend, Google's got enough that you can spend $10,000 a month. But you're paying for clicks from the vast majority of people that are not ready to make a purchase. Now, you're just eliminating all the people that wouldn't buy, for the most part, from the clicks, and you're only going to spend it on the buyers, and that just cuts your ad spend.
Well, think of it logically for a second, right? Let's say you show the ad to 5,000 people, and you get 1% to click through, right? Brent, what was the one we did? It was franchise leads. They had 27% of the file click through. And Brent, I can't remember off the top of my head, was it like 1,800 leads? It wasn't a big number, right? It's like 1,800 people.
It was a little over 1,800.
1,800 leads
to click
and
over.
27% click through. right? I mean, that's a lot of people out of 1,800. I know that's not a big number overall, but I mean, they're selling $50,000, $60,000 franchises, $100,000, $200,000 franchises. So they were pretty happy. But think about that, 1,800 people. Now, they took that data, they uploaded it to Facebook, and they ran a campaign. Their cost per click was like 50 cents a click. It was really, really cheap. You're basically then asking for Facebook to match it back. So 1,800 could turn into, like Josh just said, 25,000. You know, they're not cheap when they give you the number of people to target. Like, they want to get you to target more people so you could spend more money. So you got to be a little careful on the matchback. But I will tell you, and I said this last night, the matchback produces just as well as our data, if not better sometimes. All right.
All right. From Nicholas here. Do you ever enter a sales conversation with leads already generated? I'm not sure I understand that question, Nicholas. I mean, if I understand the question, you're saying, are you going to talk to somebody when they've already been generated as a lead? Yeah, I mean, you can, but why don't you clarify that question for me, just so I make sure I answer it right.
Hey, Josh.
Yep.
Real quick, my impression is that he's asking if people are, sorry, I'm going to put it, it's like you have the list ahead of time and say, hey guys, I have 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 in your area. Basically, are you with me or against me? I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah, guys, we don't do that, and here's the reason why. It costs money to produce these leads in advance. And if I had to do that for every vertical in all 50 states, I couldn't charge you the monthly fees that we charge you. It would be astronomical. We're 100% custom. And I know a lot of guys want to, like they'll say, I need to tell them how many leads. If you heard me tonight, and I never mention how many leads, it's irrelevant. Look at all the value that you're bringing, right? It's not about how many. It's about the result that it produces. So, you know, going in to see somebody and saying, hey, I've got 1,000 leads already, I can tell you that I can generate leads in your area, right? We wouldn't pick the vertical if we didn't know already that we can do it. But it's not about volume, and I'll explain it again. If I upload 10,000 leads to Google and I get a 1% click-through, right? All right, let me change that. I upload 10,000 leads and I get a 1% click-through, right? I get 100 people to click. Make sense? But if I upload only 1,000 leads and I get those same 100 to click, I get a 10% click-through. And the cost per click comes down. A lot of times what people don't realize is that the money you're spending is what I call dead wood, right? That those people are dead wood. They're worthless. I mean, you might as well be advertising to a tree, right? They're not in market. They're not interested. You know, advertising to people with teeth sounds like a good idea, but not everybody who has teeth is in the market for a dentist, right? So if you upload 10,000 people, you know, it's never about the number. It's about the accuracy. I'd rather advertise to 1,000 people where I get 100 people to click, because I'm going to pay pennies for that cost per click. And then more importantly, when I ask Google and Facebook for the matchback on the 100 or worse, the 1,000, I'm going to reproduce that at a much higher number, because they're going to give me everybody that I'm not able to give you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's all right. That's right.
And the reason that's important, guys, is that Google and Facebook, I asked the question last night, does Google's system and Facebook's system work on a high bid algorithm or a relevance algorithm? It's a relevance algorithm. They don't, doesn't matter to them. They'd rather have you upload 1,000 leads and get 100 click-throughs than upload 10,000 and only get 100 click-throughs. because in their mind, the 9,000 that you had them advertised to was a bad experience. They don't want these people to have a bad experience. So they reward you by a higher click-through rate, 10% versus 1%. They're going to charge you less. Yeah, they're running less ads, but it balances out by not showing bad ads to their customers. Google and Facebook are all about making sure that the advertising experience is not bad. Think about why. If it's a bad experience, you won't come back to the search engine. You won't want to see ads on Facebook. You'll stop coming. All right? It's a relevance algorithm.
That's a good distinction. And that's why the cost is lower, is simply we can eliminate the vast majority of people who would normally see an ad that really just shouldn't. I mean, my click-through rate on Facebook is 1%. That means a good 90% of those people shouldn't be seeing my ad.
Exactly.
But you got to do it, and you pay for it. Question from David. Does the tracking work if they browse using incognito? I believe the answer is no, right?
You know, it's a good question, but I mean, here's the thing. If they're tracking incognito, I'm not technical enough to answer that question. I'll get you the right answer to that. But here's the thing. I don't know how many people, you know, turn that on other than maybe if they're watching something they shouldn't watch, like porn. You know what I mean? Like, I can tell you, I have a guy that works for us, and I won't bury him here, but he actually told me once that he doesn't put ads. He has an ad blocker, and I was steamed that he did it. But I'll get the answer to that. But I mean, it's a low number of people that actually use ad blockers. I mean, you know, no system is 100% perfect. You know, we're not 100% perfect. So if someone wants to use ad blocking or cognito, okay, it's not enough that's stopping, you know, billions of dollars being run on our ads, you know, so, you know, on our targeting.
Yeah. And usually
it's not slowing Google and Facebook down any.
Right, and then you don't typically run incognito on everything. So, you know, if someone does incognito for a time with something, you know, the vast majority of browsing behavior is typically not anonymous because they're signed into different accounts and things like that. They want to remember passwords. So, yeah, there's a group of people that are off the grid, but the people that are on the grid, which is the majority of people, that's a lot of people. And, you know, those are the guys we can get. From Tyson here, can we use the system to generate our own consulting clients in addition to business for our clients? So that's what we're working on with the LinkedIn database and all that stuff, so you guys can market to the niche in that way. But as far as in market, the way I'm describing this to people is a lot like the iPhone. How many people were in market for the iPhone before Steve Jobs walked on stage and revealed it? The answer is nobody, because nobody knew an iPhone existed. In these markets, you guys are going to be bringing something that nobody knows, nobody can really be in market for because they're unaware that it exists. And so we're going to be supporting you guys and getting in front of your niche in a lot of different types of ways. And there are a lot of people that are not in market that will become in market when they understand this technology is available to them and it's going to be used on someone in their neighborhood.
But then to finish what Josh was saying, once you have our B2B data in your vertical, you're going to be able to demonstrate for them a multi-channel advertisement because you're going to be able to show them. And, you know, to go one step further, we are building you out a demo tool, kind of what I showed you here. We're building it for ourselves, and you guys are going to get the ability to use that. These are things that we have in development. There's, you know, one of the things that I'm committed to, and think of the economics. I know we charge for access to our platform. We're not charging a lot of money, okay? $500 a month is not a lot of money. It's just not. You know, and then we charge you on a per campaign basis. That's how we make money. So I will tell you that my commitment is, you know, we could easily be out there putting thousands of people, and we haven't, into the program. That's not my goal, right? We want to be in certain verticals with the right people, the right training, the right support. I want to make money with you. And that commitment means you being able to sign people up. Okay? And again, you see the kind of the technology that I developed. I architected every single ounce of this. I can get on any sales call with you and close. All right, I've closed plenty of companies. My goal is 100% commitment to getting you handing me as many campaign fees as humanly possible. And that means you have to be able to sign clients and keep clients. And that's what I'm going to keep developing. That's my commitment to you, right? Tonight was all about showing you how to get clients and then keep clients. Get them conversion, all right? I want you guys to be sending us fees. We call it campaign fees. Every time you load a campaign in our system, we get paid a fee. We want you guys to be giving us thousands and thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That means you're making a big multiple of what you're paying us, all right? So towards that end, and I know sometimes we talk about development stuff, I was explaining to Josh, where we buy data. That's what we do, the raw data events. And getting in these files is complicated. Getting in the data and then getting it into the database in a way that we can query it and have accuracy, it takes time, right? So I already have the B2B database to give you guys, but I don't have it in the form yet. We're getting there. We're really not that far out, and I'm completely committed to it. And I've been telling Josh that I'm going to get it, and finally we did. And, there's a whole lot more that we're working on, all right? And then the demo tool for you to be able to demonstrate behavior, right? Kind of like what I showed you just before with a spreadsheet, and to give you that ability to demonstrate that you can track somebody. But think of it like this. The way it's going to work is the same way you guys logged in. You're going to be able to give them a link that when they click, you're going to be able to send them create a link, okay, that you send to them. And when they click that link, it drops a cookie and starts tracking them. And because you sent them the link, you're going to know who you sent it to, so you're going to put an email in there. And then you're going to log into your system, and you're going to be able to look up that email and then demo to that guy their behavior. Okay? That's the demo tool we're building. All right? When I say this to you, man, it's all about winning. We don't want to compete. We want to win. All right? So towards that end, anything and everything that you could possibly think of, I'm not going to promise I'm going to do it. I want to hear about it, get any idea. And if it's affordable and reasonable and can help us grow the companies, I'm game, man. All right? That's my commitment. If it's not already, obvious the kind of, things that we can build and our commitment with Josh, we could be anywhere. We could be with a lot of companies. We want to be where we are right now with the people we're talking to right now. All right? That's our commitment.
Awesome. From Tyson here. Oh wait, we already answered that. So then, Dave, you're saying you've seen other companies doing similar stuff to this.
Possible. Name them.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to. Yeah, let me know some of the companies that you've got on your list. There are other platforms where you can try to plug in targeting, like a Site Scout type of a platform, but none of them where you can export the data.
Where you own the data, do multi-channel. And again, I'm not being challenging, but guys, when I say that there's nobody doing this, I work with the biggest companies in the world to put this system together. Like, this isn't an IM product. This is a business that we're in. I know every company that does this. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but you personally can't afford. There's two companies that you could get in-market data from, but you pay on a usage basis. They'll tell you, they'll ask you, for example, who is your DSP? We'll forward the data to them, and you pay on a CPM basis. Nowhere will you own and control. Nowhere where you can run this at your will at any platform. And certainly not in the verticals you're in on the real-time behavior with machine learning. So I don't mean to be challenging, but go ahead and name it because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it looks like he meant he's been seeing multi-channel campaigns run to him. and not a platform that could do it. So that's my
Right.
bad.
Well, here, there's a company out of San Francisco called Targetto, right? And we've spoken to these guys, where you can run a Google campaign and a Facebook campaign, but you have to be able to bring the data to them. So where are you going to get your custom audience data outside of us? You could run your ads at Targetto. I mean, we know about them because we're building an omni-channel platform that's basically going to compete against them. But, you know, I had one of my business partners yesterday had lunch with, he's now retired, but he was a very big wig at like the highest of the C-level at Axiom, one of the biggest data companies in the world. And we told them what we were doing. And, you know, there's an agency called Live Intent that they do something similar to what they do, but they're an agency. I know because I've spoken to them, and we have a lot of the same clients, so someone introduced me to them. And when their CEO, as an example, turned around and said, like, bullshit, they're not doing this. And then when I got on the phone and I explained what we were doing, he was like, all right, I got to apologize. Like, they are. Like, you know, there's several pieces to what we do, and to have all of them and to do what we're doing is complicated. It's not an easy get. So, you know, can you do multi-channel advertising? There's one or two places you can run ads on multiple channels. Like Targetto doesn't have, I think they just added in LinkedIn, but they don't have the pixel on the page that speaks from one to the next. All it is you can run Facebook from their platform. That's it. You know, it's not, I'm not going to get into the specifics of the platform, but you have to have the data, you have to have the machine learning, you have to have the targeting, and then the one thing I can tell you, even the biggest companies owning it and being able to not have to pay on a usage basis, we're the only company that does that. I made sure that we had at least one value proposition that we excel at, and that's the one we excel at, even against the two companies that I know do what we do.
Cool.
And all those guys really just work on the enterprise level. Like, you got to be a $200 million company or bigger. That's a puny company to them, $200 million in revenue.
Yep. Nobody's doing it at these size companies at all with this level of technology. Question from Jeff. Yes, so we're not going to have in-market leads for your niche, but we are going to have the multi-channel B2B data that we talked about. From
What
Jeremy.
niche is that, Josh?
What's that?
What niche is that?
He's talking about being able to do in-market for his niche. Like, in other words, if he was working with dentists, knowing which dentists are in market for his services, marketing services. I'm saying we'd be marketing to probably the entire dental market.
Yeah, it kind of, like Josh said, the analogy you used before with, you know, the example with, you know, Apple is a good one. Here's the thing. Josh's guys, your guys are already getting appointments using your current system, right?
Yep.
I mean, here's the thing. It's kind of like, are the fish biting? When you reach out to somebody to book an appointment, are you telling them that you can give them the names of the people that are shopping for what they sell? Because when I send that to people, I send 20 emails on that, I get 10 responses. I get 5 responses. You know what I mean? I mean, anybody who says to me that they're doing LinkedIn and sending out 80 requests using what I tell you to use, all these value propositions, you're going to get response. You're going to get response. Nobody has this. I mean, think about it. If you're in any of these verticals, man, which one of them doesn't want to know the names of the people that are looking to buy what they sell? Nobody.
Yep.
Who in their right mind would not respond to your, you know, your reach out?
You'll get a lot of interested people, and a lot of the best agencies or the best clients out there that already have an agency but are looking for an edge, they're going to perk up and they're going to want to hear what you have to say. From Jeremiah here, for life insurance, most of the time purchases after a major life event. Can you track behavior based on major life changes, such as keywords related to that? So yeah, Jeremiah, there would be keywords that relate to major life changes. Like if it's someone's about to have a baby and that's part of the process and they're doing that type of behavior, we could eventually optimize for that type of stuff, right, Tommy, for life insurance if that was
Right.
part of.
Here's the thing, though, and I'm just going to, keep it really simple. If someone has a child, should they get life insurance? The answer is yes, right? So can I tell you who's just had a kid or, who has newborns? If there's behavior for that, yes. We're tracking people on all sorts of different things like that. But here's the thing. If there is research being done for life policies, that woman who just had a kid, that husband that just had a kid, yeah, he's a good candidate. But he's that 7% that is open to it but isn't actively interested. And I'm not saying you don't want to go after that market. I'm just saying that there is a much more lucrative market, all right? There's 4 types of markets: unaware, uninterested; aware, uninterested; aware, interested, but not today; and then aware, interested, and ready to buy. I'm talking about aware, interested, ready to buy. It's the best market there is. We call it InMarket, right? So, you could put your money on any number on the roulette wheel, but I mean, if I can remove 75, 80% of the numbers and assure you that it's going to be one of the ones that are remaining, I've increased your odds. And see, that's what strategy is, man. Strategy is not about perfection. It's about shortening your odds. Like the woman who just had a child is a good customer potentially, but they're not actively looking. They're not actively interested. They should be, I agree with you, but, once they start doing the work, it's like they've made the mental decision that they have to solve this problem. That person's easy to close. That person's easy to get to opt in. I don't want to say they're a laydown, but they're a hell of a lot better than somebody who should be a client who first has to be educated that they have a problem. I'd rather have the guy who already knows his hair is on fire and he's shopping around for a bucket of water.
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, we can find the people that are in that state, and yeah, those are going to be the guys that are the fastest path to profit. We don't have to educate them and nurture them on why they should even want this product. All right, question from Tyson. If we can decrypt the hash, how do we ensure the leads we provide the clients are not an invasion of their privacy?
Well, you're not decrypting it, you're appending it, not to be technical, but you're just getting their email address. I don't recommend you give the hash to your client. I recommend you use the hash for yourself to market for the client. So they're never going to get the individual behavior. They're just going to have the behavior in the aggregate. This guy's interested in a home mortgage. This guy's interested in a dentist. And they fit the behavioral profile. So to give a client the hash and let them append it and get the email and the address and the phone, that's your call. We don't recommend, you do that unless there's an advantage to you for doing that. But, it's really not going to benefit them unless they're running their own ad campaigns. Like I have resellers now who sell the leads to their clients who market to them. I can tell you that, everybody wants to send an email because it's easy. Like sending a cold email to somebody, I don't care that they're in market, you're going to get crummy responses. Send an email to somebody who's been to your website, we get a 20% click-through rate. Not on opens, on sends. 20% of send. But, that's because they've already engaged with you at some level by visiting your website. Again, having that information isn't about using it against them, but to market to them. And I prefer that you do the marketing with the data. It's safer in your hands to have their address to do a direct mail piece or their phone number to do an outbound call. That make sense?
Yep, makes sense to me. So I'm going to go through some of these quick just to move things along, so I know it's getting late for some of you guys. Make sure everybody gets their questions answered. So Paul, your quick question is, most of the niches seem B2C. How do we factor the data will help someone only in B2B where sales never happen online, for example, recruiters? Well, recruiting is one of the verticals we have. And
we do B2B all day.
yeah, I mean, every every transaction, every major decision has a research. So Paul, in recruiting, like I know Donnie's been testing some of this stuff in recruiting, and the results are pretty crazy right now. Like when someone's looking for a job, they're not just waiting for somebody to call them. Like if they're thinking about
companies don't do the research. People do the research. It doesn't matter if it's B2B or B2C. We know the people. It's people-based marketing, right? We're tracking people, whether they're doing it for a B2C purchase or a B2B purchase, right? If Josh is looking for a CRM and I'm able to track him for CRM and he's doing all the keyword research, I know. So, if I'm tracking somebody who's looking for a job at, Monster.com or Indeed, I know, right? If someone's looking for a CRM or someone's looking for a piece of software or someone's looking to hire a business attorney, and we know. It's the person, and you're contacting the person. So a lot of times what we'll tell people is, we're tracking this person, look them up on LinkedIn, and call them at their job. I mean, if you're getting B2B leads from me, you should be picking the phone up to dial that guy at their job, not at their house, at their job. Look them up in LinkedIn.
Yep. Yeah, no, absolutely, Paul. So in B2B, I mean, as long as there's searches, which, I mean, B2B
we wouldn't
has,
pick the vertical if there wasn't.
yeah, there's even more sometimes in B2B because there's more considerations, right? So it's even more powerful. And there are definitely B2B ones on there. And recruiting, I mean, these guys, if they're considering moving their job to another vertical, it's there. And then if they're not, and we want to headhunt somebody, we've got the B2B data, right? So you want to headhunt for heads of marketing in a certain area. We've got that data on LinkedIn, and we'll be able to cut that up for the recruiting niche. So, I mean, recruiting is actually going to be even more. This is a complete door opener for the recruiting. If you're doing recruiting and you don't have this, you're competing against this at some point. Is a simple way I look at it. How is running an SLS campaign right now, where all you do is you use the LinkedIn data? How is that a superior method to knowing who's actually interested in a job today versus you're just hoping you hit someone that's interested? And then we've got all the LinkedIn data you're trying to get anyway by connecting to people. We've got it from day one of the campaign.
Here, think of it like this. Let's say that somebody wants to get a job, right? They're looking for a job or changing jobs. What's the first thing somebody does? They go online and they research, right? What do search engines rank? URLs. We're tracking people on a keyword search basis, on a URL level. The behavior is there. It's not slowing Google down. Google does more than B2C. They do B2B. It doesn't slow Facebook down doing B2B. Is it easier to find someone who's looking to buy a car? Sure, because there are all those websites that are dedicated. But if there is keyword search, think of it like that, simplify it. Instead of just saying there's online behavior, is there keyword search? If there is significant, decent amounts of keyword search, then we can track it.
Yep. All right. Question from PJ here. What behaviors might a mortgage prospect show, going to Zillow, LendingTree first, maybe too late for us?
No, how about going to bankrate.com and looking up rates? I mean, here, go in and look at the biggest keyword in mortgages, right? Let's say you're doing VA loans. Type in VA loan, look at all the URLs in the top 10. Just do this as a thought experiment, right? Just go in and look at them and ask yourself, if people were going to those URLs, would I want to know? Now, am I tracking every URL for every one of those keyword ranks? No, but I'm probably grabbing 3 to 5 out of the 10. And I'm doing it on every single keyword you can imagine. And basically any place you see an ad, if it really makes you feel comfortable, any place you see an ad, just realize we're probably tracking them. We're tracking people on about 5 billion URLs, about 200 to 250,000 of the top line domains. You'd be surprised how few domains we track people on because we pre-target. It's consolidated. So I know mortgages because we do a decent amount of it. It's bankrate.com produces a lot of it. Zillow, realtor.com. Um, you know, there's just so many sites that are ranked.
Yep.
Only so many sites that are ranked. Excuse me.
Yep. So yeah, PJ, even anything we've tested in mortgage has crushed it. So that's not a problem. We're not, there's no like checkmate out there. Oh, it's like if there's a research process, this beats it. We're not waiting.
The last one that I could think of that we struggled with was somebody sold a product of doctors who were looking to do something else with their career. That was the product that they sold. That's what this guy was a consultant for. And he said that there were a ton of keywords, and we struggled in the beginning, but we kept building out the keyword sets, and we wound up getting them thousands of leads. Who knew that there were so many doctors and there were so many keywords that things that they looked up that, were looking for other financial opportunities for doctors. It was a challenge. I mean, Brent, can you think of any that we've kind of been stumped on?
No, not really, Tom. That was the hardest one by far, and we did figure it out. I mean, there are ones we need to do a lot more work on, but
Here,
yeah, eventually
we wouldn't do this one, but somebody did basement conversions.
Oh, basement waterproofing, right?
Basement
That's
waterproofing.
very localized in just
Right.
a few areas in the country.
I also struggled with lemon law attorney, and the reason I struggled with lemon law, I wound up getting it, but a lot of the best keywords had law firms ranked. I need ads on the pages for me to be able to track somebody. That's the primary way we get our data, right? So it was a little challenging. We had to look for other sources, and we got it done. But again, guys, we're putting you in verticals that we already know we dominate, and we know that you can make a tremendous amount of money selling the service to them. We've already done the heavy lifting there.
100%. So, question from Paul: do we have demographic information on these leads? For example, business owners, age range. You could get that, but what's your thoughts on that, Tommy?
I'm just saying, like, listen, guys, if I tell you that someone spends 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months researching a product, you're not going to advertise to him because he doesn't meet your demographic profile?
Yeah, no, I'm advertising to him anyway. But yeah,
but the answer to the question is you could always take it, append it, and plenty of companies out there that'll sell you that information. We don't provide it. I don't care about demographics. Do not care. Demographics don't mean squat to me. I only target behavior. Behavior doesn't lie.
Yep. And there's all sorts of people in a demographic that aren't going to buy, or people outside it that do. So, that's not a true indicator. And that's what a lot of other people do on Facebook. They pick a demographic, they run their ads.
Think of what Google does. Google's one of the biggest advertising platforms in the world, right? There was actually a research project. There are 5. The 5 biggest ad platforms, Google and Facebook, and the other 3 are Chinese companies. I don't remember the names. Right? So Google's got like a $800 billion valuation now, some crazy number. They're closing in on $1 trillion. How does Google do it? They target off of behavior, right? Keyword search. They don't do demographics, behavior, because behavior doesn't lie. And what you haven't seen, like what I showed you tonight a little bit, when you see the behavior, it's clustered, meaning the amount of behavior that someone does is so obvious. They look at, for example, in automotive, let's just say single URL. It's anywhere between 500 and 1,000 individual search behaviors. And Google did a study on automotive. I think it's 32 keywords, or 23, maybe it's 23, that sounds about right, that they look up on their way to buying a car. 23 different keyword searches. Right? So, like when you start to look at the behavior, it's not like they did 1 behavior or 2 behaviors or 3. We're talking dozens and dozens and hundreds and even sometimes thousands for some of these verticals. The more complex the purchase, the more expensive, the greater the risk, the more research people do.
Yep. All right. Question from Andy here. With solar, what kind of in-market data are you collecting? Is it residential? Is it commercial, utility, related services in solar? Kind of what are the limits of the data inside a niche like that?
Well, I can tell you from having done this for a few people already, it was challenging in the beginning because the first time I did it, I looked for keywords that were around solar, and then I realized that there's a whole world of people who are interested in the topic of solar. That doesn't mean they're interested in buying solar panels. So in solar, I can tell you it's strictly around the panel. So if the keyword is a commercial keyword, then you're going to get commercial leads. So I know that there's certain types of panels and keywords that are indicative of a commercial purchase. That's the best I'm going to be able to give you. All right?
Got it.
But I would probably say the vast majority of it is residential. But you could easily give me commercial keywords and we could work on doing some commercial separate. Always, Boz and I have had this conversation because I know it's his world. This is all custom, boys, and girls. This is custom. So I'm always open to, if we can fine tune this and give you a competitive advantage, game on. I'm up for it.
All right. Question from Sean. In financial advisors, a wide variety of products. Not all advisors sell all products. Many are fee only. How do I know that this will predict buyers for products they're actually selling? So we're breaking out, like some of these things are more categories and there's a product inside it. So like dental, it's not just, I'm in market for dental. Like we mentioned last night, there's different products, and it's the same for financial services, right? We have different things like IRA, different retirement planning things, life insurance products as it relates to that. So yeah, we absolutely have all the different data we can break out, and if your advisor isn't looking for those products, well, throw a rock, you'll hit an advisor that is.
Here, Josh, honestly, let's say you came to me and you said, hey, look, I got a guy who only sells, ask him for an example, but I'll make one up, only sells mutual funds that invest in gold and silver and platinum. I don't know. Are there keyword searches for that? Or is there a way that I could find someone who's in market for that? I'll create the product. Because inside the vertical, like to use the dental one, we break out the leads. People who are looking for cleanings, people who are looking for veneers, people who are looking for, root canals, people who are looking for extractions, people who are looking for, you know what I'm saying? So if in the financial services happens to be one, if you have a product that's kind of off the beaten path and you want us to add to it for you, so long as it's reasonable, I'm up for it. I want you to close sales, buddy.
Cool. All right. We'll work quickly to wrap this up since it's getting late for everybody here. From Jason, metadata, they say they do closed-loop analysis-based marketing. So, guys, there's a lot of services out there that they'll do that based on your CRM, but they're not going to let you actually get a new in-market leads. They're not going to bring new data into the pipeline for you. They can't go out and find new people. They're just going to help you do that off of your existing list. With this, you've got the targeting. Like we're bringing you that list of in-market people. There's plenty of services that can take the data once you have it and once you already know who is in market after you've done all the hard work in marketing. We're the only one that's got it on the front end where we're bringing you those leads that you can market to. I mean, plenty of people can analyze that after the fact. That's what metadata and a lot of others do.
And by the way, they're not actually telling you based on behavior. They're using a demographic profile in many cases.
Yeah.
Because again, you can't track on a people-based level. A lot of companies will do it off of an IP address. Like there's a couple of companies who, in commercial, for example, they'll tell you when someone comes to a website. You can do that for commercial because the biggest enterprise-level companies register their IP address. Right? IPs are registered to companies. Residential is different. You can't do this off IPs. How do I know? I probably have lost $250,000 trying to do it off IPs for a year and a half. I tried. It's physically impossible. So there's a lot of companies out there that'll provide I'm not to get too different, but when I say transaction, it's really called deterministic. And when you're doing it off of things where you're not 100% sure, like an IP, it's called probabilistic. We're deterministic. Trust me, you can extrapolate and try probabilistic, but you have to have deterministic to get the profile to do it. Now, I'm getting into the deep, deep weeds on targeting, but for what you're doing, again, who's in market on a people-based level, nowhere else. And we're giving you the data. So you own and control it, which is a huge advantage.
Got it. All right. So question from Chris. Had a question about finding companies that are looking for talent in the IT recruiting niche. It seems companies are looking for candidates. They post job requirements as opposed to people looking for these jobs actually do the research. So I'm trying to understand this question here. So he's saying that a lot of people just post a job requirement as opposed for looking for people, as opposed to those people are looking for those jobs actually doing the research. I think I disagree with that. What are your thoughts, Tommy? I think they do the research.
Well, here's the thing. Let's say that I wasn't looking for a job and you reached out to me. Am I just responding to that? How are you saying it's done if they're not doing research? They're posting jobs where?
Yeah, they post them in job boards.
Right. Guys, I'm tracking people on job boards. Don't get into keep it simple. URL navigation means a lot of things. I know, for example, WebMD has 1 billion pages in Google, right? But not every page at WebMD. Same thing with the auto websites. We track people at eBay. eBay creates a lot of pages on the fly. There's a lot of sites that develop pages that don't get ranked, right? But if there are ads on those pages, and even if there aren't ads on those pages, we do have contracts where we can get access to that data. I'll give you an example, man. There's a data company that we buy targeting from. We buy these raw data events. These guys are one of the biggest page interaction companies in the world. And I could tell you how they do it. If I told you their name, you'd know them. But basically, they track about 25% of the pages online. And, we get URL level data through them. And it has nothing to do with advertising. And think of a sensor. Any code that's on a page, if a search box is on a page, if there's any sort of analytic on a page, all of that stuff allows you to track. There's a lot that goes into what we're doing in terms of data. I don't need to have my pixel on the page. If I can get my pixel, my code, inside their code, bingo. So, those are sensors. That's how we call sensors. They're tracking. That makes sense? For example, I post in content all the time on comments. Our software does this. So we look up certain words on pages in and around topics that we want to be in, and we put our links on these pages. And as people click them, we track. That's how we track content consumption. We have data that we buy. We create a lot on our own, but I'm always talking to companies that you may not think is a big deal, but think about how many widgets are sitting on pages. If somebody's got distribution of 1 million websites or more, as long as they're not garbage websites, I'd look to get a subscription with them. So we buy raw data events. And we have a very select way in which we do it now. We were doing a lot of wide stuff when we first started, but now, we're looking for very specific stuff. So, we have our own internal search engine. We send spiders out. We're looking at pages. We have a contract with a company that has 70% of the pages already semantically reviewed, so we only have to send it out on 30% of the pages. So we're constantly looking for data. That's part of the game.
Cool. From Sean here, are we not able to offer phone numbers of InMarket and funnel prospects to our clients? Like, for example, the auto case study we talked about. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I know we're working on our call center integration, but
Here's the thing, guys. You're going to be able to get the hash. We're going to give you 5 companies you can go to, and you can pay anywhere between a penny to 3 pennies to append the rest of the data, the name, address, and phone number. I don't want you to hand the data to clients. I just think you're opening yourself up to somebody turning around and saying, hey, I know you were at the website. All it takes is one person, and you're going to have to answer for it, not me, because I gave you the hash, and I told you not to, to do it. Right? And you went ahead and did it. You really got to think about PII, personal identifiable information. If you want them to do an outbound phone call, you can provide the phone numbers if you so desire, but I think you need to do the digital work ahead of it, right? And maybe only dial the people that have been to the page, and now you have to have a reason. So I'll give you an example. When we talked about the auto service department, they didn't call up and say, hey, I know you're in the market. They asked if they were in the market. Hey, I'm calling from so-and-so Honda. We're, wondering, we're looking to, we wanted to introduce ourselves to you, and we wanted to know if you were in market for any auto repair. If you are, we have a free inspection offer that we'd like to offer to you, and, their numbers were based on that offer. But they didn't call up and say, hey, I knew you were at the page, but between me and you, they were at the page. How do I know? Because my client drove them there. And then they dialed only the people that were there. But I mean, you got to be smart. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to creep people out. So you got to be really careful is what I'm saying. It's really what I'm saying. Everybody, like, if I did it to you, you'd freak out on me. Right? You'd be like, hey, that's totally wrong, man. How did you know I was, like, you'd get mad. And you're on this call 2 nights in a row. Right? Don't think your prospects are any different. But I'm going to tell you, it's like, my son's a great kid, but he's always looking for the shortcut. He's 13. Customers are the same way, man. You hand them the lead and you say, don't do this. What do you think they're going to do? Oh, hey, listen, man, I know you're in the market. Why aren't you, you know what I'm saying? That's why everybody asks us for our data, like, hey, can you recommend a place where we can email? And I'm like, don't do email. I know you can, but, again, build a relationship, educate, help, and then send them an email, and watch the response rate go up. These aren't magic beans. You know what I mean? You actually have to nurture the relationship before they're going to take the action you so desire. Look, you guys are investing hours for $500. And you're no different than any other prospect. You want to know, right? No one wants to be solicited. No one wants to be sold to. They want to be helped, right? So I always get nervous when people say, like, can we just give the client the phone number, and people start dialing away. They're not magic beans.
all right. Question from James. How does this work with the super short sales cycle? So it doesn't work very well with the super short sales cycle because there's not enough research. But you mentioned HVAC. Like, there's a difference between HVAC repair. They're going to just call the guy to fix it, and like an HVAC new install, right? Because then there's going to be research on that, and that's why we have that as one of the markets.
I got to tell you, we've done pretty good with HVAC.
Yeah. There you go. From Paul, I'm mostly helping clients who are looking for business clients. I've never done candidate search, so will that still work? Not sure if companies are looking online for other companies to help with their hiring. There absolutely are, but then even if there aren't too many of them doing it, we've got the B2B database so that you can market to those people who would want help with the hiring. So either way, we got you covered. I mean, it's better than what they're doing, right? What they're doing is maybe nothing, or they're just reaching out cold. No context, no nurturing, no education, no multi-channel approach. Just about any instance you give, this is better, every time. So Jeff, in-market lead for a financial advisor, that'd be like somebody looking for an IRA, right? Looking for some sort of investment when it comes to that. There's a whole bunch of different examples. From Gabe, is there a way to generate a list with people who have specific job titles or work for specific types of companies? I think we'll be able to do that, right, Tommy?
It's on its yeah, it's coming. That's in the new B2B database.
All right, we got like 3 more questions, quick ones, and we'll be all wrapped up here. Yep. So yeah, we're going to be working on how to work this into your LinkedIn process and your sales calls, scripts, and all that stuff. We're working on that. Paul wants to know, will this work for business brokers? That is on our list, and that is one of the niches. If you have any comment on that, Tommy, feel free on business brokers.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with business brokers. They're looking for people. Buying is a lot easier. People who are looking to buy businesses. There aren't that many keywords in my experience of companies looking to sell a business, like, specifically looking to sell my business. If there are keyword searches, the answer is yes. I found more people that are looking for franchises, businesses in that several hundred thousand to multi, 2-3 million range. But yeah, we could do it. It's on our list. It's one of the verticals we're going to be in. But it's going to be a combination of business broker. It's going to be the franchise leads, business brokers, combination. There's a ton of franchises that will kill for these leads. Franchises, right?
Yep.
So.
All right. So yeah, Jeremiah, for HVAC businesses, we just know who's in market for, a new furnace or an install. So yeah, that's the best kind of stuff.
And just to kind of show you the kind of customization we can do, if when we do this, let's say you came back to me and said, Tom, these leads are good, but I'm late. We push the leads once a week. Maybe for that vertical, we'll push them daily. I'm up for that. It's a little more cost on our part, but I want to. Like I said, I mean what I say. I want to win. We're a custom shop, so it'll cost me more to push it every day. But if it helps you, like we looked at funerals, the problem, and it would be a great vertical in my opinion. I don't know how much search there is though. You know what I mean? So we took a pass on it, but we looked at
planning, Tommy, at some point down the road. Funeral planning might make some sense in that space, but I do agree in general there are.
Yeah, I mean we have to experiment with it. It's probably we put it on the list. It's on the list of we probably need to kind of have a deeper conversation, Josh. But again, like HVAC and stuff, I know that includes a lot of plumbing stuff as well. That's come in on that, and some of those jobs are big plumbing jobs. Like, so I have a client that, or actually, I should have in my ad platform, I have a client, and he's a big plumber. He doesn't do plumbing emergencies. He just does big commercial plumbing jobs, and so I know the targeting for him has worked very well. But he gets like half the leads or people like, I had an emergency or, he doesn't want those jobs. They don't pay. So like you said, it's a boiler, it's a big plumbing job, it's a, construction type job. It pays big dollars. The bigger job is, what they want. So it's been a good niche for us so far.
Cool. It looks like that's it for now, guys. But the key thing is, like, we didn't put anything on this vertical list that we don't already have. Don't already know that we can crush, right? The data can be used for almost any use case, but for us, we didn't want to put you guys into something where, you're figuring it out, right? We know these niches that the stuff works. I mean, we've only had probably in 2 or 3 instances where we've struggled, and they're very unusual use cases, like the doctors who want to do a different business, stuff like that. And it's because
on average in the verticals that we've set up, because Brent and I did the keywords for all of these, we're looking at anywhere between 10,000 to 20,000 keywords. So we're talking about a tremendous amount of search for those verticals.
Cool. All right. Anybody else have any questions before we wrap up here for the night? All right. Looks like that's a wrap.
Can I say one thing, and I'll finish with this? Somebody had taught me this question a long time ago in business. I don't know where he got it from, and I know he got this out of a book, so if you've heard this question, my apologies to the author. I don't know where it originated from, but I wrote it down when the guy taught me this. I thought it was a great thing. He asked this question, what one thing can you do that by doing everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? And that, when he taught it to me, he was trying to explain that you should look for those behaviors that have the greatest leverage, the greatest potential in terms of outcome, the greatest impact. Okay? Now, I know we're sitting here, contrary to what you might be thinking, I'm not trying to convince any of you guys to do this. If this doesn't suit your needs, float your boat, blow your hair back, God bless you. I wish you the best of luck. I mean that sincerely. It's okay with me, okay? But I'm going to tell you personally, like, I don't say one thing and do another. We eat our own dog food. We drive traffic. We convert traffic. We're in this business. This is what we do. We make our money. I could be charging $10,000 for the platform. We don't do that. We make it on the usage, meaning our clients have to get clients for us to make money and keep clients to keep paying us money. What one thing can you do that by doing everything else become easier or unnecessary? And I know that if I spoke to your clients, it would be in-market, in-funnel leads. Very rare in life where you can answer that question that accurately. And I've been asking that question, like, when we talk about things like, what one thing can you do by doing would make everything else easier if you didn't have to advertise to everybody in your marketplace and just the best possible prospects. All right? If you're not going to do this with us, eventually get into this, because this is something you're going to be needing to do. That's about it for me. All right?
All right.
And those of you who do come on board, I got your back. We're going to crush it.
Awesome.
All right?
Thanks, Tommy.
All right,
Really
thanks a lot,
appreciate
Tommy.
the presentation.
No problem. You guys have a good night.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.